Is this real? Am I a man who is alive and real and existing? Hello, everyone. Welcome to YouTube streaming. For some reason, this is YouTube streaming. I don't know what I'm saying. So as you can see by my face, a train ran over me. So you're gonna have to excuse me for a second while I fix the fact that a train ran over me. I know it's a little gruesome. It's a little gruesome. There we go. Nah, much better. Now trains have not run over me. I'm actually trying new streaming software, so I'm not entirely sure how good everything I'm doing here is. But I just needed to change the prior software that I was using. So let's talk about some movies and games and shit I did this year, huh? Now, I just you're gonna have to excuse me a second as I check that I'm live. Excuse me a second as I check. In fact, I am in fact live properly, and I'm also extremely loud. Sorry, guys. Well, maybe not extremely loud. Maybe I'm just loud settings, but who cares? Point is, this is unusual for me. It's the first time I'm streaming to two platforms at once. That's right, this stream is live on Twitch. So I lied completely when I said I was on a YouTube stream. No, this was, I'm still getting used to this, okay? You're gonna have to excuse me. But as you can see, I have my little list here of every game I played and played a bunch of this year. It's not a lot of games. I only put here the games that I feel like I played enough to rank, because it's not all games I finished. I didn't finish all of these games. There's no way I'd have the time to finish satisfactorily in this current day and age. So that's kind of like what I'm running here. And I'm not sure if I can read YouTube chat. Hello, Knight the Goat. Okay, I can read YouTube chat. Thank you for you seeing Hollow Knight. Now I know I can see chat on YouTube. So I'm gonna repeat myself for the new people, but yes, this is my first time doing like a duo streaming. So I'm not just streaming on YouTube, I'm also streaming on Twitch, which is pretty unusual, and I'm using new software because of that. So I did need a change from what I was previously using, so might as well take the plunge. And here is a list of all the movies that I watched this year, even if they're not from this year. Cause, yeah. So I think I'm gonna start with the games, just because look at how this is many movies. This is just too many movies, and it's not like all of these movies are bad. They're mostly great. So there's a lot to talk about here, and there's a lot to talk about in the other place, and I might as well just, talk about them. We'll see what Hollow Knight is. Probably S tier. Also, yeah, as you can tell, not on screen chat. I'm sorry, future viewer from bot. You're gonna have to use the nasty and ugly YouTube chat. Ugh. Your computer is about to lag terribly because you opened the chat window. So yeah. Okay, these were arranged by time in the year that they released. All the ones that released this year. But I kind of messed that up to get the thumbnail. So I guess we're just doing this order now. Oh boy. I also need to get used to my face again. Holy, this is weird. So yeah, let's talk about some games. Pokemon Sleep. I started playing it last year, yes, but I played about 300. Currently, I'm in day 402, I think, something like that. And the thing is, that basically means I played Pokemon Sleep a year straight. I played this game for about a year and 3 months. And I don't know what I think about it. It's weird because it's a really good application to learning how to sleep, but also terrible. Not good. I don't know how to get that across. It works really well at the start because it gets you used to a schedule, to sleeping properly and everything. You kind of have to give it 2 weeks. Right? Any first time you're using something like a little app, to check your sleep, you get a little bit nervous, so you don't work perfectly with it the first few days. And then after that point, you just go balls to the walls. It doesn't matter what the microphone from the app hears. And now I've shared all my deepest, darkest secrets, such as in the middle of the night, which pretty awesome, right? The thing is, eventually you start to realize that in order to get like the best score and perform well in what the game wants you to do game-wise, you eventually do what I'm doing right now, which is the game sleeping for me, because it's still not breakfast time in the game. It still hasn't stopped me from having breakfast. It doesn't stop me from having breakfast until an hour from now at 12. So that means I can pretend to be asleep until 12. And that's just not very good. Basically, not letting you use your device before sleep has its advantages and disadvantages. And not letting you use your device right after you wake up has its advantages and disadvantages. And I definitely think eventually I'll stop playing the game and think, oh my god, thank god I stopped playing the game. That absolutely stunk. It's just one of those games, right? The game mechanics aren't too bad. Basically, you have your Pokemon that you every day you get like special cookies that you can feed your Pokemon, and you can force feed the Pokemon the cookies until they don't want food anymore. And the more you feed them, the more they like you. And there's special cookies that like increase your relationship with a Pokemon. I have a Twitch person watching me right now. So if you're a lurker, I just want to say this is the first time I've got a Twitch person watching me in like probably 2 years, because this is the first stream I do over there in 2 years. The point is, hi, welcome, thank you for showing up. I like you. Oh no. I've come to the realization that I can use half of my faces while doing this. Kinda Pet Simulator Pokemon Edition, yeah. Basically, they come with a pre-installed set of skills. And there's a bunch of skills, a bunch of main skills that they have. Like, different Pokemon have main skills, and every single version of that Pokemon always has the same main skill. So all the Pikachus have, say, Charge Strength, which gives your little Snorlax a bunch of power. And the more power you have in your Snorlax, the better sleeping styles you get, right? Sure, Sponta, go ahead. It's fun. But they yes, Typhlosion is in the game, and in fact, Typhlosion is one of the most stacked Pokemon because it's just great. It's one of the better fire Pokemon, so you know you end up having Typhlosion. So yeah, plus you can get it pretty early on. They let you get almost all of the starters pretty early on. I think no, Scorbunny 100% isn't in the game yet, much to my dismay. So you know you got one over me there. But yeah, that basically means some Pokemon are better than others for your sleeping endeavors. And that also means that, sadly, you can't always sleep with your favorite Pokemon. Like, I really like Ditto. And Ditto in the game is alright. They're like an A-tier Pokemon D-tier. You can actually tier list a Pokemon in the game because each of them has different main skills. So that's very important. As for sub-skills, you get a bunch of things, and the sad part is those sub-skills really matter. Like, if you have a Pokemon that specializes in giving you ingredients, it's terrible if it doesn't come with a sub-skill that has ingredients. So basically, it's a massive gacha. And the thing about the gacha is it gives you the impression that you can pay more to improve better. For example, you can't, like, by being a paid user, you can improve your sub-skills, which is like, say one of the sub-skills is your Pokemon gather ingredients and food a little bit faster, and you can infinitely upgrade those if you have like the premium membership. But if you don't, that's everything you're missing out on. You're literally down to luck, even if you decide to try and pay to win. Of course, you get advantages from trying to pay to win, but thankfully it's not a lot pay to win. It's just pay to be way likelier to do well. It's also true that the game doesn't have a lot of content, so currently I'm always like hitting the barrier of content. Every single time I'm at the top level that I can be, have most of the Pokemon that I can have, and that makes it really annoying. I can't get too much higher. And I did mention ingredients. That's because a big part of this game is feeding your Snorlax 3 meals a day. So you have to kind of balance getting berries and getting ingredients so that you can cook for your Snorlax, because food gives him a lot of points, and then on Saturday you can cook with like 3 times the ingredients. So, you know, it gets wacky, and I think it's, all right. It's all right. It's a B tier. I'm going a little bit in depth into what Pokemon Sleep is, because I know some people haven't played it and are like curious probably. So that's probably one of the ones I'm gonna go the most into detail on. Let's continue. Yes? Man, I need coffee. Wow. I'm talking a lot. I don't know how I'm gonna survive on 1 cup of coffee. Maybe I need to go drink some water later. Yeah, I can use my coffee face because... Actually, can I use my coffee face? Let's see. Coffee face is available. It brings up a thing. What did it bring up? Bring up the find and search? Really? Animal well. Yeah, pretty much. Better than Pokemon Sleep. I say it's better than Pokemon Sleep. Animal Well is one of those games that so many people want to like tell you that it's great and fantastic and the best thing ever, and it is not. And I am sorry for anyone who really liked this game, because I don't know, it's just not a game that jives with me. It's a game, I think the main problem with the game for me is that it does not respect the player's time. And it also has like terrible puzzles. Most of the times you come into a room, you see something that looks like a challenge, and that's a lie. You either have to completely avoid the challenge and don't do anything difficult, or you have to get the nearest thing they give you and bypass the entire challenge. The only challenge that it does feel the game have pretty like recurrently is platforming. There's a bunch of platforming little challenges and traversal of the map challenges, and they generally like those. It just kind of sucks that most of the puzzles is, no, you don't have the item required to do this thing in the Metroidvania yet, so come back later, or struggle 20 minutes trying to find what you actually have to do. It's also one of those games that kind of, a lot of people praise it for the things it has in common with bad game design. In the sense that people love to like praise how cryptic and mysterious it is. Ultimately, I like some of those elements of how cryptic and mysterious it is, but oh my, it's just, it doesn't work, because most of the times it's just so cryptic and mysterious that you end up wasting a lot of your time as a player, and it really feels bad to play a game that really doesn't respect the time of the player that much. That doesn't mean that the game's bad, by the way. The game's great. I really like the game. I did play it like quote-unquote 100%. I didn't do the secret objectives, because they're secret objectives, but I did everything else. And it's just a very basic, like, bit Metroidvania. If you love it, I mean, that's good. Good for you. But I personally, it didn't click 100% with me, and it was a very frustrating experience, as you can tell from my streams, in which I'm talking like this a few times. And I feel embarrassed about that, but whatever, who cares? Mario and Luigi Brothership. I'm currently playing to this one, so I'm not sure if it's gonna get any better. It could be here or it could be here. I'll tell you when I finish the game. Since I'm playing it on stream, I'm only playing it like 3 hours every week, which is just really slow for playing a game. But, I mean, you can tell by the amount of games here. I didn't play that many games. So, Mario Luigi Brothership is a return to form to the Mario and Luigi formula, and I loved it. And I am loving it. At first, I didn't like the story at the start. It seemed like too basic and too boring, but it starts to get the ball rolling. I do feel like it's a little bit segmented. Like, every time you reach a lighthouse island, it starts like a new chapter, and the new chapter feels too segmented from the others, in the sense that now the characters that you met during the second part are just not relevant, because they wrote them quote-unquote off for a bit, with very few exceptions. Though I do wonder how it's all gonna come together. It has the potential to just come together really neatly and just be a great game, right? I'm thinking a little bit about story-wise, but then there's gameplay-wise, and gameplay-wise, here's what I say A tier. Compared to other Mario and Luigi games, I find myself having a lot more of a fun time managing the block system. The block system is genius compared to like prior systems that the series has done. It had done the badge system in Bowser's Inside Story that was really good, but the blocks just work fantastically. You can synergize them together, you end up putting them together. Constantly there's new stuff happening in battle because of that system, and that makes it extremely entertaining. Even if you're just still doing the same thing, which is attack enemy, jump, jump, you know, it's still like it feels different every single time because of the different blocks that you get. And I kind of dig that, right? Like that's kind of bonkers. um, what else is there to say about this game? Battle system, bros moves. I feel like the bros moves are a lot more varied. So that's great. I like having Mario and Luigi having separate bros moves. I feel like bosses still run into that issue that I had with prior Mario and Luigi games, where most of the boss you spend it just like, oh, boss move, do, boss move, do. They did add the Luigi logic to combat that. And that really lets you see that they really cared about what the combat system was going to be. And it is one of the best combat systems in the franchise. I'm not sure. I'm still divided whether I like it more than Bowser's like movement set in Bowser's Inside, because Bowser's movement set in Bowser's Inside is just extremely fun. Plus, it's very intuitive to dodge attacks with it, right? Whereas like Mario and Luigi have the jump and the hammers are somewhat intuitive, while the jump is generally just figuring it out as you go. So, you know, you're playing to the Kirby Dreamline series, and you just finished Kirby 64 and Half-Life and A Hat in Time and Banjo-Tooie. Wow, okay, those were some good games to play. I also played some good games, as I'm gonna get into in a bit. But yeah, Mario Luigi Brothership, just an A tier. A complete step up from Paper Jam. Much better than Paper Jam. I'm still, like, so far I may like it more than Partners Inside. I'm not sure I like it more than Dream Team. Dream Team also has like the Luigi magic abilities, which are extremely fun for me, and I loved using those, and the action commands in it are also some of the best. Something this game isn't clearly doing. Most of this game is just button like mini games for the action commands for the pros moves. So I do wonder if there's something better, but yeah, I think Mario and Luigi Dream Team had the better ones, even if they included gyroscope, which many people despise and whatever. I like that. I think that's good. I enjoy it. All right. Undertale Jello. Yeah, maybe. This is a tough choice. Here, fine. Undertale Jello. Thoughts on Undertale Jello? It feels official. It like whenever I think about Undertale Jello, I think if Toby Fox had said, "Hey, this is what I'm releasing now," yeah, that would be like a shoo-in, right? It feels like a prequel to Undertale in so many ways. It's a little bit more amateurish. It doesn't have the amount of polish that, well, like the story doesn't feel as heartfelt as the one in Undertale, but they make up for it a lot with just the visuals, the like characters, the places you visit. It feels like a complete experience, and it's just a fun version of Undertale. It feels sorta like it plays off well with Undertale while doing its own thing. It doesn't just go like, oh look, Undertale again, Undertale again, Undertale again. It avoids using all of those characters from Undertale like Papyrus and Sans and all the iconic guys, and only uses Toriel briefly. And that's like, oh, and Flowey. Flowey is used pretty much a lot. But that makes it feel like the games are just connected in some way, and I can easily imagine the worlds coexisting together, which is just a great achievement for a fan game. Undertale fan games, to me, they don't tend to work. Undertale fan games. I don't like most Undertale file games, but this one did something. The game, the things that I think I dislike the least is just the fights being constantly so difficult. They wanted to step it up from Undertale's difficulty, and that means that most of the fights are too hard, in a way that I don't quite adore. There's some fights in the pacifist route that just feel ruthless, and I'm not talking about the final fight. I think the final fight of the pacifist route is the one that deserves to be difficult, because it's just a great fight, it's a fun fight, it's easy to get into. It seems harder than it actually is, which is always a benefit to bullet hell games. Um, I just thought it was fantastic. I just wish some of the bosses were easier. There's like that like enemy boss at the end of the core segment that's just far too difficult for no reason, but that's a balancing thing. And that's probably the reason why I'm putting it in A and not in S tier. Just because it does have little things like that that bug me. I also think it's fantastic, like it's made really well in terms of being emotional. Um it's not as emotional as Undertale, but it does still feel emotional. And I'm glad that they didn't cop out on killing the main character at the end. Everyone knows if you played Undertale, which you probably did if you're playing Undertale Yellow, um, it's known that all the humors prior to Frisk died in the underground. And so it's really nice to have a story seeing that and seeing how the death of this character affected the other characters. That made it a really like nice story, and I don't know, it was great. I liked it a lot. Anyways, Hollow Knight, yeah, to surprising no one, Hollow Knight is S tier. I'm not the best at video games. I absolutely hate that I can't play through Hollow Knight at max speed. And that I'm not the best, and that I can't really get into like its harder bosses as much. Um, outside of stream, I only beat one boss. One boss I beat outside of stream, and as well as the final boss, which was the Radiance. I beat the Nightmare King Troop, and I beat like the Nightmare version of the man. So it was a really tough boss and really enjoyable. I really loved getting through that boss. It was nice to finally not have the pressure of needing to perform for the stream, because you might not think that, if you're like a person on the internet, but streaming feels weird. Things as they are. Streaming is not the most fun thing to do when you're not good at the game, because you start feeling bad about what the audience is gonna feel in regards to whatever you're doing. um it's just really important that when you stream sometimes to just remember that. Hold on a second, I'm fixing some stuff up. There we go. But outside of that like framing device that was the streaming and how I felt, streaming the game and crying because I suck at the game. It's one of those games that's just immediately perfectly designed. It doesn't take a genius to see how well designed the game is. The gameplay is incredible. The fighting is awesome. It's all well telegraphed. Every single boss happens to have something different to it, and they feel different. There are different bosses. You actually use a different strategy for every boss, despite the simplicity of 2D gameplay. Yeah, sure, most of the bosses are just show up, hit the boss, step back. But that doesn't mean that it's not different forms of show up, hit the boss, step back. I like different sizes of the bosses, the different types of bosses. There's bosses where you have people helping you from the game. Kind of in the Dark Souls sort of, I don't know, summon format. Except that they do things that are new gameplay mechanics instead of just a ditto of the player. And that makes it it all just comes together perfectly. The music in the game is fantastic. The size of the game is great. I can't believe it was made by like 4 people that composed Team Cherry. Man, everything about the map is so properly distributed when it comes to game design. YouTube sucking ass, huh? What was I gonna say? What was I saying? What was I saying before YouTube started to suck ass when it comes to performance? Oh, my silly, here we go. What's up, Sabitsuki? Welcome to the stream. How are you? I'm talking about Hollow Knight, which is fantastic. I love the way the game tells its story. I wish it was a little bit clearer on some matters of the story, but it's clearly not a game that they want you. Like, you don't play the game for the story. You play the game for the gameplay first and the story second. The story is more like a bonus of, like, really getting into the world. Oh, wow, you're feeling silly? That's awesome. I'm feeling silly too. Okay, never mind. Man, the tone in Hollow Knight. I love the tone in Hollow Knight. A problem that often plagues Dark Souls. I'll get to Dark Souls. It's down here in a second. A problem that often plagues Dark Souls. It's that it's just too gritty, too busy being gritty to be any fun. And I like that the world of Hollow Knight is gritty, but it doesn't stop itself from being fun. It's very silly. There's cute bug creatures. They show up. You end up talking with them. You will like them, and then they die. They fucking perish. I don't have an angry face. Where's my angry face? Holy. Just realized I don't know where my angry face is. The point is, they fucking die. They perish and stop existing. Which is awesome. I like seeing those cute characters that I really got into die. Compared to Dark Souls, where suddenly I just return to the place where they were. And it's like, oh no, they're dead. Not to mention, one thing I love about Hollow Knight, it's in part just the way they decided to do side quests. Because most side quests, you're not locked out of as you play the game. You just end up finding the next part of the side quest. And you can basically do the side quest at any point in time. They don't say, hey, you already killed this boss, so you no longer can do the side quest. And that's great. Oh, you get into Yumeniki. Man, Yumeniki. I need to actually sit down and play Yumeniki because I've heard about it a bunch, but I've never played it. You're gonna excuse me as I put the microphone down for a second. Because my hands, my arms are starting to hurt from holding the microphone. That's not good. In case you don't know, I actually recorded video yesterday. And in case you don't know, it's 100% the case. Because you definitely don't know. This is a new information. New Smash Tomatoes video in production now. I don't know how, but it's in production. So yeah, Hollow Knight, absolutely fantastic. Nailed the tone, nailed the soundtrack, nailed the gameplay, nailed the design. A joy of a fucking game, and it is easily one of my new favorite games of all time. Even if I suck at it, and I can't appreciate 100% everything it does. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, we played this on stream, and it's still a fantastic game. Primarily, the combat system. Like, regardless of how you see it, the combat system, the absolute combat system of this game is just peak. That's the way I can describe it. Just absolutely incredible. It's a special game in many ways. The remake did a lot of a good job, like remaking the spaces, but this is definitely not one of those games that needed a remake outside of the visuals. And I'm so glad about that. I'm so glad they kept the battle system almost entirely untouched, and you can do most of the shit you did in the old games in the new games. There's some goober in 2000 Year Door. It is peak. It has the best partners in Mario and like Paper Mario story. At least to me, I love Goombella, I love Copper, I love basically everyone. I like that each of them get their little spotlight and their little character arc. I do wish some of them would return, right? I wish, like, you got, like, Vivian, for example. She's extremely well done. She's introduced in Chapter 2, then she joins in Chapter 4, and then she has a tiny bit of development when she beats up her sisters in, like, Chapter 6 or 7. That works really well. And then you got Bobbery, who shows up in Chapter 4. You basically go through his arc in, like, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and it's solved. It's still really good. I still really like Bobbery, but that means your connection with Bobbery is just pretty lackluster. Same thing with, like, the Yoshi. You get the Yoshi, you raise the Yoshi, it comes out customized to your experience. It's different every playthrough generally. And yet, it still just disappears a bit after you finish Chapter 3. And that's literally the only bad thing I have to say about this game. I'm putting it in A tier because it's a remake and not an original game. The original game is an S tier to me. And I'm putting this one in A tier because this is a remake. I don't want to, like, clap the remake as much as I clap the original. But it is the ultimate way to play this. It's fine. We'll do this. I'm gonna take my the shit out of my ass. Yes. It's a fantastic game. I'm not sure it stands on my top games of all times list. But it's just amazing. I don't know. Once again, the combat system to me is impeccable. A level of impeccable that I don't think I've seen in any other RPG since. Persona, for example, has really tightly knit RPGs. We'll get to Metaphor Refantation in a moment. And even then, I don't feel it's tightly knit. The Persona battle system is fun and really well done and bombastic, and it's just a party, and it feels great to explore and do. But you compare that to Mario, like this one, just the way the damage scaling works. It doesn't scale to 2000, it scales to like 10. And that's all it has to do. It feels so tightly knit, so well put together. Everything is a different strategy. You can win or lose every battle at any second if you like drop the pen, but you can also generally be confident in how you battle. It's a level of design prowess that not any other game has. Castaway Paradise, not surprised, a B tier. I talked about this game for a video in the channel. If you haven't watched it, you should after the stream. It's called 2 weeks stuck between inside Animal Crossing clones. Castaway Paradise is probably the least Animal Crossing clone that I played in that game. In the sense that, yeah, sure, you do fish and you do catch bugs, and it does have that human person on a world full of animals vibe, but it's more so like a mobile game where you plant crops and get money and whatnot. And it's very easy to figure out and abuse the mechanics of the game because it's been adapted to like the you bought the game experience. It's not the you're playing a game on mobile and now you have to wait 8 hours for the crops to grow. It's more on the you paid for the game, just have to wait 15 minutes. Um which is really neat. And I really enjoy that. I like that you can customize a lot of the things about the game, but I don't like that you can't be too like you can't do it all in the game. There's no point basically. They let you customize your house, but there's no reason to customize your house. Um, it also comes a matter of the fact that the game's finite. I think that's one of the greatest deterrors from thinking it's anything like Animal Crossing, as I talked in the video that I did that you should watch after the stream. This particular game finishes. It ends. Eventually, you finish cleaning up the island and making it pretty, and you realize there's nothing left for you to do. There's no daylight cycle, so it's not really immersive. There's no really that appeal that Animal Crossing has, where it's like, oh, a second parallel life. It's just a goal of a cleanup list. And it's a satisfying game to play. It takes about probably 6 or 7 hours to beat. So, you know, if you want a satisfying 6 or 7 mobile-like experience, play it. But it's not the epitome of game design or anything. It is surprisingly full. I just wish it had a little bit more to it. Daylight cycles, this, that, whatever. You know what I mean. As Sabitsuki said, wow. Kifpia, A tier. This game, how did it not come to the West? Very, very few games feel as GameCube as this one. It's a game where you basically play as this kid who gets in trouble with the law because he forgets his bar mitzvah. That's basically how I see it. They have their tropical version of a bar mitzvah that means you go from a kid to a man, and he misses it because he falls asleep because he's stuck in a dream. And of course, the game eventually explains that he's not a sleazebag. He actually couldn't wake up during that time because of spirit possessions and whatnot. And the game goes about this journey where he learns how to be a man, not in the sense of like, oh, now society thinks you're a man because you've grown up, you're 13, but rather that he starts laying on the responsibility of taking care of others. And it's a game where you mostly end up doing side quests, but those side quests are the entire game, so it ends up feeling really fitting. It has incredibly charming dialogue. The problem is, it's all in Japanese. It's not been localized. There's not even a fan translation, which means you don't understand much of what's happening if you don't have like your YouTube, whatever, not your YouTube, Google Translate. I did find a site that has like the transcript of the game translated, so that's what I kind of used to guide myself through the game. But it ends up being a different experience because a lot of the puzzles it eventually tells you how to do in the guide because it's only translating relevant dialogue. So that part of the game, the puzzle aspect, is a little lost because of the translation, because it's hard to understand it. But outside of that, if I'm looking at it from the framing of someone who completely understands the game, it is fun. It is lovely. It's such a cozy game in terms of atmosphere. The character designs are so fitting, and that makes it really feel proper. Everything feels concise. The game has a really neat progression. I've talked about this as well in the video about the 2 weeks stuck in Animal Crossing clones. And this game has the vibe of Animal Crossing down. It's one of those games that you would see yourself booting up just to hang around in the world of Gipia. And exploring this island that you're inside and whatever. But yeah, it has some really neat progression in the sense that, like, at the start of the game, you're chained, so you walk slower. You don't have food, so you eat garbage of like the street probably, and you don't even have rights to use your face, so they pixelate your face, and it feels awful for you as a player in that position. It's a slug of a start, in the best sense of the world. And eventually it starts building up on what you can do, and you eventually can stay up later, have more fun, do different things. You can take care of different people, different animals. It's just a neat experience. I didn't finish playing it because I'm debating whether or not I make the video about it. I think I decided against it because the original video that I'm talking about already 5 times, it didn't do that well. So eventually I'll get down to finishing it way beyond what I did on the stream for the video, but for myself. And I'm sorry you guys won't get to see that, but skill issue, support me more. Celeste. Yep, not a surprise. When it comes to precision platformers, Celeste nailed it. No lives, everything's just beat the screen, and that's all it had to do. And that is wonderful. Wonderful. The collectibles are so fun to get. It's not the kind of game that, like, is silly on the collectibles. You really collect things that require a challenge, and I like how the game kind of keeps track of every collectible in a sensible way, and you can just hop into a chapter in the part where you missed a thing and do it. If we counted the games in an unusual and weird DS collection, we wouldn't be here that long, because I would rank them really quickly, because I wouldn't have that much to say about them, Coolio. Just because I didn't play them much. The other one, I probably should play it next year. The slime game that I found really charming and really fun while I was playing that. So I might do a full playthrough of that. I also, as you can see, I didn't count Magician's Quest because I didn't play much of it aside from what I did for the video. Which is kind of a shame. I kind of did want to get into it. There just hasn't been a lot of time. And I'm not too used to booting up a DS game on my Switch, if that makes sense. Anyways, yeah. Celeste, I don't think I need to get too much into it. Really fantastic depiction of all of its mechanics. Really fantastic depiction of all of its characters. Story. Its gameplay is really tight. Really neat. It's a lovely game, and I don't think I need to say much more than that. If you have questions, ask away. Same thing for A Short Hike. This here may be the most important indie game. In fact, I'm putting it here. A Short Hike might be the most important indie game to come out in a long time. To no one's agreement, except like a few people who are in the gaming industry. And my god, what's wrong with you people? As a game developer, you have to limit the amount of scope that you have for your game. And A Short Hike is the epitome of what indie games should be. Small, little experiences, exploring a place or a mechanic, and just going 100% with it. The game as described is called A Short Hike. It is a short hike. You play it, you start the game, you walk up a mountain, you can beat it in 30 minutes. And then around those 30 minutes, you can do all sorts of side quests and collectibles, and it's a tiny, cozy, open world magic game that I feel more indie games should learn from. And from the release of this game, a lot of little games have learned from it to be smaller, and to be smaller, better experiences when it comes to indie games. And if I ever end up doing an indie game, you can bet your ass I'm gonna take the scope and like vision of this game. It's minimalist in the best way. You can tell a lot of its limits are because of the fact that it's an indie game, but also because of those limits being so well done, they basically surpass the limits. And I think that's incredible. And more indie games should do that. Flying around the map here in this game is extremely fun. I like the flying mechanic because you start being unable to fly a lot and then you eventually get better. I like the dialogue in the game. It's very casually thrown around. Like, characters talk very... in a very natural way that's also far too casual to be normal. They play a lot with the text box. That's something I really like when it comes to dialogue. Most dialogue in games doesn't play that much with the text box. Like the most thing they do is color names or put big letters in the text box. And I really like that this one uses the framing of text boxes to pace the dialogue sometimes. So, like, if a character is talking to you weirdly and they don't know what they're saying, they will cut up the dialogue box in a just very smooth way that I wish more games would do. And that's why it's in S tier. I played really good games this year. Now, sadly, there's not a lot of S tier games left on the down here, so yikers. Oh, Pika. Oh, Pika. Is it Pika? I don't know if it's Pika or Pisha. Pisha. Pisha? Is it Pisha? Pisha means to pee. Some people use pish to pee in other languages. So I'm gonna suppose it's Pika. I say Pika. Maybe it's Pizza? Pizza. Pizza? Like pizza. Is it pizza? I don't know what your name is. Bacon Pines. C tier. It's not a bad game. It's a little choose your own adventure game that I sort of played while I was waiting for the meme marathon video to render. And I just played it all in one go. And it's one of those games where it's like choose your own adventure, but they don't often work. Basically, as you do things in the game, you unlock different words that you can use for different scenarios in the game. So say is like one of the first words you get is poop. You inspect the poop and it gives you the word shit. And eventually you have to go around town and it's like, oh, the best way to deal with your best friend's sister is to be a little, and it gives you two options. And one of the options like be nice, and that sets you on a story path, and the other one says be a little shit. So it's very charming. The only voice acted character in the game is the narrator, and that works really well because it does feel like you and the narrator together are playing a game. The narrator talks directly to you as the player and tells you like, no, this ending sucked. Let's go back and do a different ending. That kind of stuff. And that gives a lot of personality to everything about the game. It limits the amount of voice work that had to be done, and it's still a fully fleshed visual novel. When it comes to like visual novels, just gameplay wise, this is high up there. 999. Hold on, Pika. What you do? What you do? Let's go. Thanks for the super Pika. It's pizza. Okay, pizza. Yeah, like pizza. Pizza after dark. Basically 3 a.m. munchies. I get it. I've been there. I've done that. Thanks for the $9.99. I'm just letting you know that by virtue of that super chat, this stream is more profitable than the Joker video, so that's good. Okay, the problem with Beacon Pines, it's one of those games that does not connect the multiple branching paths at the end, which means if in a branching path you see a really heartwarming scene with character A and character B, there's a scene I really like where the main protagonist finds the new kid in town and they just lock themselves in the room and they talk. And they talk about like what it's like to constantly move, to constantly change, how change is scary, particularly for kids their age, because they're supposed to be like 12 years old. It's a very heartwarming scene. It feels cozy, it feels nice. There's just this really cool music where the kids are very angry at life. And it's just an amount of sentiment that you don't see in games. Games don't often have that much sentiment when it comes to children head characters. That was exceptionally well done. I was really liking that scene. It gives me shivers. It's like a fantastic scene. And then that ending never happens. That storyline for the character, he never has that development. We just assume that he has the same relationship with the character in this universe, in the real universe, as he does in the normal universe, in the universe where he has this conversation. And they try to sell it off like that. It just doesn't work. One of the things I really don't like about the game is just the ending is completely underwhelming because of that. Not only do the stories not come together, say, for example, in one of the storylines you end up bullying the bully, you throw some magic thing that makes half of his face deform, and he turns good for that route. He starts like working with you as you discover a little bit of the secret of the town. Like from the other side, it's one of those big moments in the game, and you get a lot of development from that character going like, no, I was an awful shit, and I deserved whatever happened to my face. And then in another universe, in the real universe, you show up to the guy and he's like, oh, I know you bully me a lot, but that's just because you want to be my friend. I just guess that this is a situation. So please help me defend the town against the bad people, the bad corporation. Yes, and he goes like, oh, cool, that's I'm good now. I'm good now. No problem. Beef, years of beef squashed at none of my expense. It undermines its own arcs in that sense, and I don't like that. I hate that. And that's the reason why I did it so bad. One thing I do like is that it has one major twist that it does let you figure out extremely early on. Like 2 hours into the game, they let you figure out a twist that is not fully confirmed until 5 hours into the game. And I think that's very, very neat. I love when games give you a mystery and they let you figure out the twist since very early on. Alright? Alright, Switch Sports, D tier. For all the reasons I mentioned in the Me Games video that I did. I played it for the Me Games video and it just does not feel right. I don't know, maybe the gyroscope on my Joy-Cons is broken because I don't use them that much, but I sincerely doubt that's the case. Most likely it's just that Joy-Cons, here, I have a Joy-Con right here. Here I have a Joy-Con. And the thing is, Joy-Cons don't weigh. I can touch this around, no problem. It doesn't have a weight. It's lightweight because they don't want this Switch to be heavy while you're carrying it in handheld mode. That means this little piece of shit, this little Joy-Con that you're not seeing, but trust me, it's here. I can hit the... I'm hitting the microphone with it. I can... That's the triggers. That's the thing that drifts. That's the buttons. The Switch's in the other place, so I can snap it to the Switch, but trust me, it's here. This little shit does not weigh, which means most of motion control doesn't have any weight. It doesn't weigh. You swing the Wii motion control. You know when you grab a Wiimote and it has a weight? So you swing it and it feels like you're swinging a racket or throwing a volleyball. It has weight enough to like give the movement that you do weight. This doesn't happen with the Joy-Con. That's just not the case. And that makes every single piece of motion control feel like a wall noodle if it was accurate. That basically turned the designers into being like, oh, okay, so we don't focus on the movement so much as we focus on the timing. That basically means that most of the games is just timing based. Maybe the golf game is good. I've heard the golf game is good. So I didn't get the DLC. Because honestly, I'm not setting myself that far back to play this game. And I'm kind of sad that I wasted the money on it. Maybe if I had online, I would have a more positive opinion of the game. Because then I could actually play the game and like climb up the ranks. But just, no. No, the single player experience is awful. The multiplayer experience is probably not much better. And I'm just gonna say that. Mickey's Mouse Magical Mirror, also a C tier. I give this a full review, so I'm not gonna go too much into it. Point is, clearly a baby game. It tries to simplify things too much for the babies. It fails at most of what it tries to do, but at least it's sort of creepy and sort of weird. The thing about this game is that I'm kind of sad that I talked about it instead of fucking... what's the name of this game? The game where you play as Piglet. Piglet's Big Game or whatever. Yeah. I wish I had talked about Piglet's Big Game, because this is very much in that vibe. It has that Resident Evil creepy uncanny vibe, but it's not as obvious as Piglet's Big Game. And Piglet's Big Game had a little bit of a resurgence this year. So I'm pissed off that I did this video instead of Piglet's Big Game, because I did think about it and I was like, nah, let's do Magical Mirror Star Mickey Mouse for the sake of my nostalgia. This was a childhood game. It's just not very good. Again, if you want more details, I have a whole video in the channel about it that you can check. Street Pass Me Plaza, A tier. I'm sorry to people who said it's SSS tier. Pizza, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Pizza. I have bad news. It's only an A tier. You have to consider that it's games on games. It's a minigame collection, and the sum of its parts together is more than each of its parts. Since it's basically 11 games, some games are really good, like the Haunted Manor game, and some games suck ass, like the Trek. Again, you have a whole video of me talking about this one, so I'm not gonna go too much in depth. Nice, thank you, window outside from right now. I'm not gonna go much in depth, but, you know, I did replay it completely for this one. Warrior's Way brings it down 2 tiers. Like, maybe without it, it would be an S tier. I'm not sure. I do like how many collectibles the game has outside of the games and how the everything centralizes into the Street Pass Me Plaza. I don't think the hub world is as iconic as the Nintendo Land hub world. And I'm not. I'm kind of divided as to whether this or Nintendo Land is the better minigame collection. My bet is I say this one simply because of nostalgia's sake. But you also have to consider this one is better under the context that you have infinite play coins. If you don't have infinite play coins, yikers willikers. You can only play this like 30 times a month. Or like, yeah, 30 times a month. So once a day. That's not very good. That's not very fun. If you could play like 4 times a day, I think that would balance itself out, but you can't. You have to play it 1 time a day if you want to play it somewhat consistently. So either you play 30 times in a day, or you play 1 time a day. And then you have to wait. Or a day, or the third day. It's like, the playcoin system, now that we have emulators and things that modify registry files on the DS, it's a lot more nice. You can just do whatever you want. Pretty easy. But otherwise, yakers. You did say, what else did you play, Jobal? You said you finished Astobosh, the Crash Bandicoot Trilogy, the first Pyro, Cape Story, Undertale, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, Sonic Mania, Sonic Z. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of games. I played less games, as you can tell, because I'm busy doing videos on YouTube. Also, Mario Wonderland. Was Wonder this year? No, Wonder came out last year, right? That's why it's not here. Right? Right? Right. Right? I don't remember. I definitely don't know. Holy shit. No, it must have been last year. I remember playing at the end of last year. Never mind. Forget me. I'm just having a dementia moment. Dementia at 23, huh? Mouthwashing. Excuse me if I say yes. Yes, give me. Mouthwashing as a game is not the best, because the gameplay is not anything from another world. The only parts of gameplay that are not a walking simulator and talking to people is like the part where you make a cake and you have to cut it later. Oh, there's also that one puzzle with a big massive horse. So I'm gonna avoid going too much into spoilers because the strengths of this game are 1000% in the story. If Mouthwashing was a movie, it would be on my top 10 movies of all time. That's how highly I think of the story in Mouthwashing. Because it's just incredible. It's amazing. It has so much nuance. It has so much thematic weight to everything. And the way they mangle the story is exquisite. Perfect, even. I love the way it drips information to you by parts, obscuring and giving you information in order to like build the whole story, and that lets you as a viewer sort of bring the pieces together. There's an amount of foreshadowing to the game that I wish I could joke about. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a major twist in the story that you can intuit within 2 minutes of the game. The game starts and it's already spoiling this massive thing, and you don't realize. You don't realize it's spoiling this huge fucking thing because you're a fucking clown compared to the game. That's how good the story in Mouthwashing is. The characters, my god. The characters, some of them are not the best developed. I think Tanya, or Anya was it? Anya, I think it was. She needs more. She needed a little more in the story, a little more presence, because the way they frame her is just as the victim of a horrible thing that happens to her. And that's basically the way you remember her. We don't get to see a lot about her. We get some information about what her background is and how she's working on the company that led the people of the game into the situation they are. But she's a little bit not that well developed. And then you have Daisuke, who is purposefully simple. I could say I would have liked a little bit more depth to him, but at the same time, the idea is for him to be flat. The idea is for him to be just not too deep, and thus his deepness shows up. This game's a lot of this game's a lot about just work culture and how work culture works. It's a game about 5 people in a ship in space transporting copious amounts of mouthwash. and they don't know what they're transporting. They just live in that ship, guided to its destination and guided back, and they get paid very little. They get forced to work, like they can only sleep 6 hours even though there's nothing to do the other rest of the time, because they literally just are waiting, navigating the ship from here to there. um and that framing of the story is pretty good, but then the ship crashes. The ship crashes and you get two perspectives. One of them is before the crash. You get events that happened before the crash that led up to the crash, and then you get events post after the crash, with the characters wondering if they're even going to be rescued, because of course they know they work for a company that doesn't give a shit about them. They're just collateral to the capitalist scheme. And that whole aspect constantly bites every character, and every character talks about this. You have a character who's not deserving of being in this position because they were brought with too much privilege, and that makes it extremely unfair for them to be here. It's one of the few games that really makes you think, well, it's unfair for someone who has the privilege to be working a terrible position, as we as society would often say, like, oh, but this person doesn't know, they don't have the credentials or whatnot. Well, yeah, but it would also be a shame to put them there, because they could achieve a lot more, you know? And the game doesn't hide away from that. I find that to be pretty refreshing. It gives you every perspective of the topic. And like that, I can analyze every character. There's one character that dedicated their entire life to work and eventually realized, my god, the times I was happiest was when I was not working and I was just chilling and being drunk and not having to worry about responsibility. I think happy, like, a commentary about that aspect of happiness and that aspect of human existence. There's a character that's underqualified for the position. There's a character that's overqualified for the position, and it's about to move, and that triggers the jealousy of other coworkers. And just like that, the game keeps going. I also like how graphic the game is without showing that much gore. The most gore you see is an amputated leg. And it's still a very graphic game. As you can see by the guy's condition in this little picture. He's not doing very well. But for example, one of the things they do is they have sequences where you have to feed this character who is bedridden, and you basically get the painkillers. It fades to black, and you just hear, and it's just like weird and disgusting and on just really uncomfortable for the player. But that works really well. It gives you an image without showing you anything, and it's one of those games where a lot of the like graphic stuff comes from your imagination. Its minimalist PS1 style is used a lot in its advantage in that way, because a lot of the gruesome stuff is reserved for your imagination to imagine how it would look in reality. I also really like a lot of things. I like a lot of things about the game. Let's move on. It's a spectacular game. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, and it's hard. So if you have not played Mouthwashing, either go play it or go watch someone else play it. I would recommend you play it yourself, because people don't tend to get a certain thing. I've seen like a few people let's play it, and almost everyone missed a massive plot detail in regards to a character. So who knows, maybe that's on the issue of the writer, but I generally feel that that's just because streamers are constantly talking and trying to make quips and working with whatever they have from the game, that they forget to really pay attention to those little details. Including me. I do that a lot when I'm playing games. Now this is looking really good. Honestly, I played really good games this year. Dark Souls. Yep, an A tier. A classical A tier. A good old A tier. Dark Souls is just good. What can I say? It's the first game in the Dark Souls. I played the remastered version on Switch, and it took about 60 hours of playing it. I think everything it does badly, Hollow Knight does better. And having that like piece of contrast almost makes Dark Souls 1 seem worse than it is. Dark Souls, I hate the early game. I hate the early game of Dark Souls 1. You don't know what you're doing, you don't know the battle system, and it doesn't work too well, and it's not until later where you get into the groove. But then I also hate late game, because after you get into the groove, it just becomes too easy to do things, and essentially everything that you're doing in the game becomes just walking over to the boss that is actually challenging. And on the way to the boss, there's so many enemies that you're eventually learning how to dodge around enemies, so you don't have to kill them every time, because killing them every time would take for fucking ever. And that just sucks. And that's kind of my main criticism of Dark Souls 1. yes, it has some design issues, but just the expanse of the world and everything else kind of makes up for it. You really feel like the world is huge, and it's a worthy experience going through the game. Um, but then the actual gameplay is easily 50% running to bosses. Just running from the campfire, latest campfire, to the boss. You beat up the boss, you learn a little bit of the boss, and you die. And you go back. And you do that 5 times. And every hard boss is like that. One of the things I personally hated is that for me, the hardest boss in the game was like the 3rd boss I did. Partially because I was not that experienced, partially because after that point, it just turns too easy. The only battle that I feel sort of was difficult after that 3rd boss, which to me was the Bell Gargoyles, was Smog and Ornstein, which were really difficult, mostly cause, who would have guessed, you have to fucking walk it. Hold on, there's someone outside, I need to answer the door. Me has returneth. I'm sorry for the pause. Did I lose all my viewers? No, I didn't. What a surprise. As I was saying, Dark Souls 1. So yeah, 50% of the game is just walking back. I was talking about Smog and Ostain, or whatever the name was. The dual boss that you get in Anor Londo, which, by the way, incredibly pretty place. I wish I could explore more of it. But I hated how for that boss, you basically had to walk back all the time. Most of the challenge was walking to the boss, because they put 5 enemies that you have to dodge, and then an elevator that you have to wait for, and then this and that, and it's just so fucking annoying. Worse yet is considering the boss is designed so that you summon someone else to do the boss with. That was, to me, that's like not cool. The fact that in order to beat the boss effectively, you have to summon another guy so they can distract one of the guys as you beat up the other. I know it can be done without the distraction, and if you have a good weapon, which I did not have when I got there, you can do it alone. If I had a better weapon, I probably would have done it. And I am a little frustrated that I didn't surpass the challenge, but I just wasn't up to spend 20 minutes walking back to the boss every time. It was not 20 minutes. It was something like, I don't know, 7 minutes? But 7 minutes for a 3-minute attempt. It just takes 10 minutes. So I could only get like 5 attempts at a day. It was just a huge waste of time. And that sort of clued me into, yeah, the problem with this game is just the boss runbacks. There's just some bosses that are really hard until you figure out the trick. Like, I tried doing the 4 kings, and I was trying to do it like every other boss until I realized just, fuck it. Stay close to the boss, dodge when they are about to attack, hit them a bunch, and that eventually killed them. And they just died. It was a damage them a bunch boss. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And a lot of things like that. Then there's some bosses that were just there. They were this big menacing creature, and you show up and you kill them. The only boss I feel like this works for is the final boss. I love that you get to the final boss and you have this massive place in this massive arena, and instead of having the boss go like and it starts beating you up with the strongest, hardest attacks, you just get this stupid piano, the slow fucking piano, and just this guy with a sword, fire sword walking and trying to hit you. And he's so puny and so easy, and just I killed him in two tries, and I was like, the guys outside his room are harder. The guys outside the boss room are harder. And it's completely on purpose. It is meant to make you feel like, wow, this is some pathetic idiot who rose to the power in this world and became one of the most important things because of some stupid reason. I don't know. I didn't even need to know the story to really get that aspect of the, like, story. I don't know. And I really like that. And that's about it for Dark Souls. One thing I absolutely despised is that I could not do the DLC. I got the remastered version. I wanted to do the DLC worlds. I said, hey, can you do the DLC after finishing the final boss? The internet said yes. What the internet didn't say was that if you beat the boss, it goes to the credits and it immediately starts New Game Plus. And it immediately saves over your save file. What the fuck? That is the worst. Why would you immediately save over the save file? I need to understand that idea. Because it saves over the save file. It kicked me out of the game. I had to do the entire game in New Game Plus again. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do the entire game in New Game Plus again. So I decided that I wasn't going to do the DLC. And that was kind of a shame. I did do every boss of the main game outside of the bosses in the DLC. Hello, Soulcaster. Welcome to the stream. There's not a lot of people on stream on chat over there, but there is YouTube chat. Anyway, lol, that's insane. Says Pika After Dark. Yeah, Dark Souls is just one of those games that has a lot of design issues that mostly come from, well, it's gonna be harder for the players like this, right? There is no challenge if the players can just get right back to the boss. So let's make them walk back to the boss. That is the punishment. The punishment for losing at the boss is walking back. Cool, awesome. You just made 50% of your game a slog. That's like my biggest detriment for Dark Souls. Just the gameplay aspect, the boss aspect, the flow aspect, it doesn't work. However, you know what actually fucking works perfectly? The world. Exploring the world of Dark Souls, outside of what I think to be like the Tomb of Giants part, it's just satisfying. Everything is so interconnected, and walking from here to there is like, oh wow, this place is here, and this place is here, and this place is here, and you can get everywhere multiple ways. That basically means you can do the game in any order you want, really freely. I did feel like the game got a lot better for me the moment I got the ability to warp between campfires, because that basically let me enjoy more leisurely. I did not like that. For example, I went to the Cave of the Giants once, and the game did not let me warp to the Cave of the Giants until I had done something prior rudimentary that the game wanted me to do. But aside of that, you know, you can teleport, you go places, exploring is really fun. The only place that's sort of separated is Anor Londo, which makes sense. And everything else is just kind of there. And it's really nice to be able. Even Anor Londo has several little, like it's a little area that has multiple areas that you can explore. The Crystal Caves. I like how creative some of the areas were. My least favorite area visually is probably the Catacombs, but I really enjoyed traversing the Catacombs because it was just like kill a bunch of enemies and then rush to the guy that was throwing flames on fire on you and whatever. So that was really fun to do, even if a bit tedious. But I definitely think my favorite area in the game when it comes to just straight up being is definitely the Duke's Archives. I really enjoyed the Duke's Archives. It's a really unique zone, a really unique area. It has a specific theme that it like sticks to throughout. I wish more of Dark Souls 1 was the Duke's Archives. I didn't like Sen's Fortress. I hated that the puzzle, like there's a ball thingy that resets rudimentarily and it's just unintuitive. But yeah, outside of that, I just thought it was neat. It was a great game. Definitely improvable, and I'm hoping that Dark Souls 2 and 3 improve them if I ever decide to play them. They're just very time-consuming games that I'm not sure I would play if they're not on a second screen, like, you know, on the Switch, as I could play them. Mario Eclipse, yeah, another A tier. I just think I played good games this year. Actually, is it an A tier? Maybe it's a little bit of a B tier, because it is a... Yeah, fine. Put it in B tier. Many people think I hate this game because of the video. I made a video about it, I review it more in depth. And remind you, I do not hate it. The only thing I dislike about the game is the fact that the true ending and final boss is locked between 100% completion, which just shouldn't happen. I'm sorry, you shouldn't put the final boss of your game and the final cutscene behind 100% completion. You're forcing players to do 100% completion, and that's not cool. I think it would have done a lot better if instead of getting 240 shrines, you just had to get, say, 200 shrines. Because that leaves a little bit of a padding of 40 shrines for the people who want to be overachievers and see every aspect of the game. To feel the reward of like, yes, I beat the game, I did it good myself, and the game didn't force me to. This is a challenge I imposed upon myself and, you know, did myself. Generally, just like that's about it. That's my main critique of the game. Definitely the work of fans. I like that it's like an extension to Mario Sunshine. It's like Mario Sunshine plus DLC, and the DLC is like Mario Sunshine 1.9 or something like that. It's almost a whole game in its own. I liked a lot of the new environments. I like that there was like an ice level. They found a way to put an ice level in Mario Sunshine, which is just neat. But it does lose a little bit of the charm with some of those levels that don't feel Sunshine themed. Um, I feel like part of what makes Sunshine so good is just recurrently having beaches. And this game managed to do that with all of the worlds within Mario Sunshine. Like all of the worlds they put in the Fino Isle are really good in terms of like fitting in. The Pianta Pit is just amazing and I love it. And it's clearly the work of fans, but it works really well. I only wish a few levels like Earth to Rock had more detail. Earth to Rock, one of my main problems with that level is not the design, but rather, well, a little bit of the missions. I think the mission objectives are a little boring in most of that like area. But aside of that, I think visually it's a little bit lacking because there's a lot of like texture-based detail. It's just, oh, look, this door is not actually a door, it's just a texture. And that sort of takes you out of the experience. So the reason why it's in B tier is mostly because of those things. A few design issues because it's made by fans, and a few world place issues because it's made by fans. I would be tempted to put it in A tier, but just because it's made by fans doesn't mean I should rank it differently than I ranked all the other games that I'm ranking, you know? Yeah. I started streaming on Twitch a while ago, Soulcaster. I used to stream like 2 years ago, but then I stopped and went over to YouTube because YouTube has better discoverability. And now I want to do dual streaming to both platforms because it just seems like a good idea to have like two places where people can show up and watch the stream. Let the user decide where they want to watch, right? I think that's great. So this is, in fact, the first Twitch stream that I've done in 2 years. Welcome. How are you? You are one of the first. The revolution begins now. XQC, count your fucking days, idiot. I will come to your house and I will not come to your house. Actually, yes, I will come to your house and I will put myself on your stream and I will say I'm better than you. But that's probably not gonna happen. But we can pretend, right? Watch your back, XQC, GCO, whatever. Who's another large streamer? I don't know. Fucking I don't know too much about big Twitch streamers. I watch the Twitch streamers I like, Beanie Buying Sauce, but I don't want to threaten Beanie Buying Sauce. Beanie Buying Sauce is cool. Bakeru. Yeah. I want to rank Bakeru higher. Part of me really wants to rank it higher. Because it's very much, it's one of those, it's a 3D platformer, very much in the like vibe of Astrobot or Mario Galaxy. You get a moveset, you get some combat, it's pretty fun, but it does have some issues. My main issue is the game's too long. Unlike Astrobot, this has every stage be a different situation. Just like in Astrobot, it feels like every level is just completely variated, but the gameplay is the same in all 60 of its levels. And when you have 62 levels of just constant, just walk to the end and go out of your way to maybe find collectibles, it gets boring. There's not a lot of mechanics, not a lot of the things, like many of the collectibles are not in a challenge path, they're just like a mini platforming segment to get to the collectible. When's your stream pack? Good luck with the streaming, Soulcaster. If they're good, I may tune in. Then I'm drinking coffee because I hurt my neck from all the talking. I think the battle system in Bakaru is fun, but it's also really repetitive. You're basically pressing LR all the time. Constantly throughout the game, I was worried about money, trying to get money because they have items that give you extra strength and extra thing. The items make the game too easy, so I avoided them. But then there's also an item that's the only one that doesn't make the game easier, and it just gives you more rewards, which is a lucky cat. And I was using that until I came upon a stage in a sauna that just, for some reason, has infinite coins. And you can just grind those coins and get like, I don't know, 1,000 coins every minute, which is just too broken.
and it breaks the game's economy. So not even that is difficult. There's also no 100% reward. I 100%ed the game, and there is no reward. There's no extra level. There's no really difficult stage. One thing I really hated is that they made this whole level theme near the end of the game, and they only use it for 2 levels. And one of them is like the corridor towards the final boss. That's kind of sad. Because, I don't know. It's just, it's weird. I don't know. Personally, I like the game. I thought it was worthwhile. I really enjoyed playing through it. I 100%ed it. I just wish it had a little bit more to it. Some of the stages were too big and too boring. Some of the stages didn't get enough like time to stew in. A lot of the stages are just like race stage or like fight stage boss battle, which is like a punch out mode or whatever. I don't know how to explain it, but those didn't quite work as well as the main game mode. And then there's the matter of what the game lets you do when it comes to platforming. You can jump, and you can jump. And you can sometimes use your little sticks to home into like different objects in the stage and enemies. You can fight enemies by hitting them. You can transform into 3 different things that let you beat up enemies, 2 of them from a distance, and 1 of them just gives you a slight hover, which they never do anything with. There's a tutorial at the start which is like, oh, you can press the B button while in the air to hover for longer. And then there's like 1 thing later in the game that requires you to use that. That's sad. Stream packs. I don't need a stream pack. Most I do it myself. I like the things I do with my streams. So don't worry, Soulcaster. Yep. Oh yeah, the antagonist of the game, Bakeru. It has a main antagonist and then a main antagonist that's fake. The fake main antagonist looks like Wario, and I find that really funny. And that's all I have to say. Oh yeah, I was saying the transformations, yeah. Basic TLDR, I wish there was more transformations based on movement that let me do more movement challenges and movement things and move faster and whatnot. Because a lot of the time you spend running from here to there. It's one of those games where you have to press Y to run, but there's no reason not to run. So, like, don't make it a button. Make it a walk button instead. Tomodachi Collection. Another B tier. What do I say about Tomodachi Collection? I need to clear my throat. Hold on. No! No, the PNG, I got some help from an artist making it. I do some of the sprites. Like, this sprite is mine. This sprite is not mine. I got a first set of sprites done by someone, and then I started working from their work. So let's talk about Tomodachi Collection before I stop clearing my throat. Tomodachi Collection is great as much as Tomodachi Life, except for the fact that it lasts even less. And one of the things I hate about this game is that the more you play it, the more grating it fucking gets. It's not like Tomodachi Life where it just gets boring. You actively start getting angry at your islanders because they don't fucking stop fighting. Like, every time you boot up the game, if I were to put it up right now, if they're not putting it up for a while, all my Miis would be in a fucking fight. At least 3 of them, or well, 4 of them, would be fighting with each other. And the fights are just random chance. They just happen. You could have people with the best relationship in the world, they get into a fight, and they break up that relationship. That's supposed to keep your, like... Why am I not converting my PNG to a life model? Because I'm too broke to afford a life. I actually don't like life models. Like, I decided to do a PNG. This is not a replacement for a VTuber. No. I like PNG. I like being a 2D dimensional being that does this. Yeah. Maybe in the future, if I have money, I may go to a life model, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? I have ideas. I have ideas as to how I can improve on my system. I was talking Tomodachi Collection, yeah. Since all the Miis end up fighting, and all the Miis end up getting in fights, all the Miis mess up, and they randomly decide that they want to stop having a relationship with their friends, it just gets grating. one of the things I hate is that you cannot put kids in this game because the game does not differentiate kids. It does not matter if the character is supposed to be 3 years. You can date them, and that's just really, really weird, and I don't like it. It also comes to reason that some Miis tend to request more things. I don't know. I wish the game was had more content. And thankfully, we do have a version of this game with more content and less annoying Miis. That's called here it is out. Tomodachi Life. And that's why we deserve Tomodachi Life 3. Tomodachi Life would be an A or S tier. Probably in between here. So I would probably put it at the top of A tier. Please give me Tomodachi Life 3 and let me put it in S tier. Please. Oh yeah, the OST for Tomodachi Collection, low-key better than Tomodachi Life's. I do like Tomodachi Life's soundtrack, but the Tomodachi Collection soundtrack just feels organic. It just feels casual in a way that the Life one doesn't. And I really like that. I really like that you go into the place and it's like, I don't know. It feels cozy and it's a lot thanks to the soundtrack. Really lovely game. I just wish Miss didn't fight that much. I just wish there was a little bit more viability to everything. I just wish minigames didn't include that one minigame where Mi's riding hiragana with their ass, which I can never play properly because I don't speak Japanese. So yeah. That's not the game's fault. That's my fault for not speaking Japanese, I guess. Satisfactory. Satisfactory is one of those games that I wanted to play more, and I did not get to. The last time I played Satisfactory, I was not eating because of a reason. And I thought it was a good idea, but it wasn't. It's a game that makes you think. It's a game that makes you think, and that's not the best thing to do when you're, like, extremely hungry. So, that kind of soured a little bit of the experience for me. But it's an extremely addictive game that I would probably like more if I had the time it takes to play it. It takes forever to fucking play this game. And the reason it takes forever is because it's one of those games where you're dropped in a planet, and what you have to do is collect a bunch of a resource. And you make different factories for the resource. First off, it's one of those games that on your first go, you're going to do a bad job. So you're going to have to undo everything and redo everything constantly as you figure out how the game works. You don't think you have beaten enough games to fill the annual game quota? I haven't beaten many of the games here. I'm only tracking the ones I played like 10 or 20 hours of. And Satisfactory is definitely one of those games. It's one of those time eater games. If you need, for whatever reason, to waste time, get Satisfactory. It's good. It's incredibly entertaining, and you'll spend a bunch of time going, oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it feels really satisfactory, wow, crazy name, when you actually finish your factory and it produces the bajillion amount of resources that you need. What I don't like is that I can't entirely be the best at the game. It keeps, like, fuck damn it. Spam? Really, Twitch? I have to open Twitch. I don't even have Twitch open. Fine. Let's open Twitch. Are you seeing my Twitch right now? Or are you actually seeing the thing that you're supposed to be seeing? You're seeing the thing that you're supposed to be seeing. Good. Let's see. My channel. Where's my channel? Where's my channel? Channel. Let's see. Did you guys hear that? Some other stream came around. Best viewers on stream. Boo. I don't need that. Where's moderate? Can I moderate? Where's my moderation tools? Can I moderate? No, am I not allowed to moderate my own fucking channel? Not allowed? You don't let me do this? Wow, one person is chatting with me in the last stream. There we go. What? Wait, why can't I remove this? What? Shield mod, chat highlight. What? Excuse me, am I not a mod in my own chat? Ah, there I am. Okay, figuring Twitch out. Sorry for that. Yes, Geometry Dash is beat. I'll get to that in a second. Anyways, now that that's figured out, Satisfactory, as I was going. It's a game that takes a lot of time to play. and I really loved playing it. I wish I could play it more, and it would probably be S tier if I had played more of it. But as of now, I finished the game in a state of being overwhelmed. I'm not entirely sure how everything works, and it's one of those games that will sometimes ask the player to take down everything they've done and rebuild it again. Thankfully, they don't take away the resources it took to do that, so it's not like a hit gameplay wise. It just takes a little bit of time. And part of the magic of this game is figure out. The gameplay of this game is figuring out, oh fuck, I messed up, and redoing stuff. There's definitely stuff that I feel like I need a guide for. But I try to do it with no guides. Definitely if I had a guide, I probably would be more comfortable playing the game. And maybe I should open up a guide and just follow a tiny bit of the guide. At least till I get like my bearings on the start of the game. But yeah. It's just, it opens up in a little bit. Yeah. Make streaming stuff and live models. Shul Soulcaster. If I ever need to, I'll keep that in mind. Anyways, yeah, it's a great game. I liked it a lot. You should play it. Okay. Metaphor Fantasio. Metaphor Fantasio. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. How do I talk about Metaphor Fantasio? Okay, let's place it. Yeah. Yeah. Ouch. Ouch. Metaphor Fantasio was my most expected game of the year. And I was extremely disappointed by just the sheer amount of game designing competence within it. To the point that it kind of made me sad. It kind of did make me sad. What can I say about this? The archetype system. I think I'm gonna go over the major details first, and then the minor details. The archetype system is really smart, and it also fucking sucks ass in ways I don't want. I don't know how to like go too much into. Metaphor Fantasio has a funny thing where you can, like, you get characters, and when you get the character, they come into your party, you unlock the ability to get their archetype. And in order to get the archetype, you have to pay a certain amount of rudimentary money, level up different archetypes on different characters, so that you can get a better version of that archetype for every character at once. And every character can be every archetype. That system can be smart. It can be really smart because you can strategize really well around having your team be different things. But that system is also really stupid for the sake of the game's like narrative and individuality. Every character is supposed to be this certain way, and just letting the players shop anything they want onto any party member makes every party member useless. You don't have to use any party member because, surprise, surprise, I can just change the archetype. And that's really disappointing. One of the things I really like about the Persona franchise is that each character has its own like personality, except for the protagonist, I guess, who is like the wild card. Making every character the wild card and limiting the number of personas just makes every character feel the same to play as. And that's really disappointing. It doesn't give the characters that individuality. And that was like the first thing that made me go, wait, what? Second thing is just the design of the bosses and enemies. Really early on into the game's like, okay, here's this battle, do not do this battle. This battle is incredibly difficult. You will not be able to win it unless you clearly understand what you're doing. You go in, you do that battle, it gives you a weapon. That battle's pretty difficult. You beat that difficult battle, it gives you a weapon, and the weapon's like, oh, you need to purify this, but you can't purify this yet because you don't have the skill able to purify this skill. Okay, whatever. You equip that on your friend. Eventually you realize, oh wait, my friend's class does not work for the enemies of this area. So you have to remove that, you lose a weapon that you got, but to top it all off, 2 minutes later, you get to the town, you get to the first shop in the game, immediately the shop already has a better weapon. What is that design? Your reward for me doing a hard thing in your game was worse than what you're giving me in your town as a free, like, not even an expensive weapon that I can just buy in town. That threw me for a loop. But to top it all off, the first dungeon, I go into the boss. I don't have the right classes, the right archetypes to like strategize on the boss. So I just have to make do with what I have. And then the next boss after that also does the same thing, except the fact that that boss isn't even difficult. That boss doesn't even kill me. That boss was just a 20 to 30 minute slog of me giving the boss normal fucking attacks because you need a physical attacker, but the game has previously punished physical attacker for the entire dungeon. And since you can't change archetypes at that point in time in the game during battles, you just basically end up slugging through the battle. And that to me was just pathetic. The game design constantly shows, the rewards constantly show an incompetence. The way the characters work show an incompetence. And I just didn't love that. I got a little bit further in to the game than the first dungeon. I got to like the third dungeon, I think, where I had this character who had a big fucking storyline around the weapon, a mystical weapon that their family has. And I just thought, they're gonna join my team. It's gonna be bad for me to have them be the archetype that uses this special weapon that her family is fighting for. And she's just not gonna have individuality. And just everything, all of those things just made me go, okay, pause it. You'll come back later when you're more in the mood to play a game that isn't that good. Because I went into this game expecting an S tier game, and it just wasn't. I don't think it's a bad game. I've seen some people think it's like the worst Persona yet. I don't think that. I definitely do not like how the move system works sometimes, because it's not true like turns based. The way most bosses work is just by giving the boss more turns for no reason, which not really a difficulty for me. Honestly, I'm considering turning down the difficulty of the game if I go back to it too easy, because normal is it's just not doing it for me. I don't like enemies just showing up and be like, now I do more damage because I get more turns because of my like skill. The enemy uses a skill, and the skill is like, I use a turn to invoke 5 turns. Okay, so just give the boss 4 turns and stop with the fucking me up. Stop with that RNG element that doesn't work. If you interest, can I hook you up? Do they have a Twitter? You should send a DM to me on Twitter or on Discord if you know like how to get to my Discord. I haven't put it in Twitch yet, but if you find it, you can like hit me up with their username on Discord and I'll see what I do. Currently, I don't need new assets, but if I do ever need them, I may look into their work. So yeah, go ahead if you wanna. I personally recommend you just send me their like ad in Twitter or whatever if that's easier for you. Look me up. I think it's Mashy Tomati. I think that's what I go for on Twitter. Because Smash Tomatoes is taken. Fuck damn it. And that's my thoughts on Metaphor. We're running out of time, and I haven't even gotten to the movies tier list, which is, well, yeah. I guess video games are longer and there's more to talk about, and I'm also a game designer at heart, so, GeoGuessr. Wow, not a surprise. I don't like that GeoGuessr charges players to use the game. It's a fun novelty that got really popular, but I don't think you should charge for it. Maybe have like a non-premium version that lets you play less, but give me more than 3 games a day. I did a video on GeoGuessr, and most of the time I was not in the GeoGuessr website. Sure, Soulcaster, go ahead. It's not a very good game. It's kind of a memory game, and it's more like a tool, I definitely think if you're into geography and like you like looking into cultures and what happens in places beyond like, oh, the culture in the Mexico is tequila sombrero, and you actually want to say, oh hey, how do people in Mexico dress? How are streets in Mexico built? How is Mexico organized like geographically? Where are the plants? Where are the cities? Where are this, that kind of stuff? If you're that kind of nut, this game is gonna be your shit, and you're gonna love looking into it, and you're gonna love reading those 20-page documents about all the nuances that tell you that you're in Malaysia, and specifically in Road 17 of Malaysia. So, it's pretty nifty. But outside of that, if you're not a nut, it's just a map, and you zoom into the map, and it's just not good. And that's it. Good. We've gone through that. Geometry Dash. I'm sort of divided. The thing about Geometry Dash is, do I take into account user-made content or not? Because this is not using into account user-made content. This is just everything that Up did of the game. He did 2.2 earlier this year, and I mostly played it this year because I was doing all the getting into the mood of the game. Did a little bit, beat a few demons, got stuck in a demon, cried because I suck at the game. And if I'm just counting like Up's work, it goes in B tier. Because he did like a new level. Hello, Soulcaster? Yes, I'm here. Can you not hear me? Are you still there? I don't know what you mean of whether I'm there. Whatever. Just send me their @ on Twitter. That's the best you can do for me to check that out. Yeah, just Up did what? One new level? What's the new level? I don't even remember what the new level's called. What's the name of the new level? What is the new level even? I don't remember. It's not Explorers. Oh, it's yeah, I'm remembering. It's Geometry Dash. Okay. Sorry. Geometry Dash. That was a pretty good level, and then you got the platforming levels, which Up didn't do the best job on. He's not the best level designer, unsurprisingly. I did do a video about Geometry Dash because of it, but outside of that, I don't think the platforming is good. He put that one boss at the end of the platforming levels that just, it's mega boring. And one thing that I hate is that half of the time it just gets stuck. Like, had to replay the level 4 times because the boss would get stuck halfway through, just going, and I was like, cool, awesome. Alright, Soulcaster, I will keep that in mind. Okay, I think this is a little better. I think... By the way, why Soulcaster? Is it related to anything book-related? Soulcasting, the term soulcasting for your username? I will check it after the stream, Soulcaster. Please don't pressure me into checking it right now. I'm currently streaming and I'm not thinking about assets because I already have all the assets I need. Do not pressure me too much or I will literally decide not to check it. Do not be too angry. Just, chill. I will check it some other time. So yeah, this is if we count user-made content. Because user-made content, it can be this or it can be this. Okay, I guess I'll average it to B. Because it can be really good and really bad. I don't like how many of the coolest levels in Geometry Dash are just demon levels. That kind of pisses me off because I'm not good enough to beat most of them. But aside of that, it depends a lot on the level that you're playing. And since it's a very user-driven platform, you get a viable experience every time. And sometimes you get really good levels and really good worlds, and sometimes you get terrible levels and you hate them, and you go like, how is this rated? This should not be rated. The gauntlet system, I don't like. I hate that it's a lot harder now to complete the game. But it's not like it was easier before. You had to be like a bajillion, trillion demon levels. So, I'm personally not a fan of the difficulty. And the gameplay is quite simple. It's just tapping one time and holding sometimes. But I like how far the community has taken it. And that's why I think Geometry Dash could be an A or an S or a B, depending on who you ask. I'm putting it in B, only counting the 2.2 content that I got to play this year. Hello, Albi. Welcome to the stream. I just finished ranking all of the games, and as you can see, pretty neat. I played really good games today. Everything above A, like in A tier, I really enjoyed playing, and everything in B tier, I played enough to like go through the entire game, even if I didn't like him, except for Metaphor Refantasio. yes, I'm confident about my list placement choices. There's a few ones that I may move, like say Gifpia, I may put on B tier, or say Castaway Paradise, I may move to C tier sometimes. But outside of that, I think I'm like really confident in what I'm doing with my placements. Is there anyone any like game in particular that bothers you? My placement about Jubal? Because yeah, personally, I think this is just my thoughts. Okay, yeah, Mickey Magical Mirror's Mickey model is really cool. I like that he has that eyeliner on fleek. Bro went to Hot Topic that day. He was going to go to Hot Topic and ended up inside a mirror, huh? Relatable. Okay, so let me talk about the big thing. Movies. My god, I watched a bunch of movies. This isn't even all the movies. This year is about 70 movies. If my maths are correct, the amount of movies that I watched this year should be 106. I should have watched 106 movies, which is like 40 movies more than what's here. And I don't know where some of those movies went. But if I'm not remembering them that quickly, it's probably just not that important that I watch them, and I don't think that highly of them. And thus, it doesn't really matter that I watch them. All right. So let's go. Let's first rank everything that I watched this year from this year. As you can see, I neatly arranged them here, down here. So we start from everything that I watched this year, and then we have everything that I watched this year but did not release this year. So, you know, bunch of movies. Inside Out 2, B tier. I thought it was fine. It's clearly a down step from the first movie. And while I do like the idea of what it tries to do, like it tries to do the same thing it did with the first one again, but instead of with sadness, now it's with anxiety and the new emotions. But it gets too busy in its whole premise of, whoa, look at the new emotions, that it isn't willing to look deeply into the concept as the first movie was. The first movie was a really nuanced take about emotion, and it was like, when you're a child, you see emotion very binarily, and then you grow up and you realize it's a range. And that's like really well represented. But here it's just puberty represented by new emotions showing up, and that's that. The emotional moment in this film near the end is a complete fake. That's what made me go, huh? Most about this film. This film does the thing where nothing really is happening, nothing sad is happening, but they really, really, really are pushing you to get sad because the music's. What was the theme of this movie? It became a meme for a bit, and I've already forgotten it. No. Oh no, I'm having the Ratatouille theme in my head. The Up theme in my head. What was the Inside Out 2 theme? I don't remember. Was it dun 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 dun? No. Was it? Who cares? Point is, they put the sound music, they put the sad music to make the sad moment, and that's supposed to make you cry. And it does work. It does make you go, but it's fake. It's crocodile tears. It doesn't feel that much weighted. I don't feel like they focus that much on the emotions. A lot of the mind palace, mind world inside Out 1 was really cleverly designed around like how psychology work, whereas this one's more like, haha, pawn and tornado and a hormonado. We're so good at comedy. Let's fucking go. We peaked today. And added to that, the fact that most of the new emotions don't really have new, like, deep character arcs, just remove them. Just don't put them in there. Get back to them later. I wish they had done a little bit more lore-wise, but that's about it. It's not the best movie, but it's also not the worst movie. It's just clearly a step down from the first, and everyone knows that. Deadpool and Wolverine. What many people described as the straightest movie of the year, for some reason. I don't know how. There's a scene where Deadpool is looking at Wolverine's pecs and abs to Madonna. I don't think you can get gayer than that. There's also a scene where they beat each other up for like 2 hours and they pan to the car and it looks like they're fucking. Which is totally supposed to be that they're fucking. And like people still call this straight because testosterone, I guess, works that way. Um, Gay people don't have testosterone, I suppose. No. Why would gay people have testosterone? They don't need testosterone. They don't like women. Like that's that's not how gay people work, obviously. No, but jokes aside, yeah, this movie is really good. I like that they made a pretty queer interpretation of Deadpool and Wolverine as it should be without people raising the alarm. And I hope they end up doing that more in the future if it's relevant. I don't want them to just randomly bring and be like, oh, but now the Scarlet Witch is gay and she's into women because of reasons. Uh-huh. I think the plot of the movie wasn't that fantastic, but it was enjoyable. It was a very popcorn movie. It's the kind of movie that is not very deep, is not very good, and it doesn't intend to be very deep or very good. Did Guardians of the Galaxy release this year, actually? When did the Guardians of the Galaxy release? Maybe it should be on this list. Or was it last year? No, it was last year, right? Yeah, no, never mind. It was last year because the Brooklyn song was also in Mario, and I was like, ah, yes. And Mario I definitely watched last year, so never mind. Forget I said anything. But yeah, this is a very popcorn-like movie. I bring up Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because I think like the Guardians series is the way you do the best like superhero films, and this one doesn't have the nuance and depth that those have in terms of its character arcs. I do like how playful it is with the MCU and how many jokes you go around like the meta of the MCU in the current day. But I don't know. It also has many reasons because of being part of the MCU that stop it from being the best it could be, such as multiple, and I mean multiple scene when it goes like, oh my god, it's that character from that one obscure movie that you don't recognize if you're a casual. And then they do the slow motion action scene of the character showing up. I also feel like many of the characters that he introduced in like this Mad Max world that they visit were wasted. They bring back the girl from Logan and she doesn't do anything. And it's like, that's kind of a disrespect to Logan, the film, I feel. I always really liked the film Logan, and it feels kind of a cop-out to put her here in the land of forgotten creatures, and then she just does something, and she does, like, you don't remember her. Like, she's a good character. Bring her back. You can bring back that entire cast of characters. They're interesting characters, generally. You can do something interesting with them, particularly with number whatever her number was. I don't know. I feel like it should have been. Beetlejuice. The sequel to Beetlejuice that I thought was going to be pathetic and terrible and a piece of shit wasn't pathetic and terrible and a piece of shit. It was actually alright. I thought I was really liking this movie. I love the music it uses. I've been singing MacArthur Park constantly since I watched this movie because MacArthur Park is waiting in the dark. Oh, that sweet green ice is flowing down. But what I didn't like about this film is just that its antagonist has one of the best introduction sequences for an antagonist that I've ever seen on film, and then they completely waste her. So Beetlejuice's ex shows up as like his bride multiple times throughout the film, and she comes up with this scene to some disco song called Tragedy, where she's like rebuilding herself with staples, like coming out of the boxes, killing Danny DeVito. It's just an absolutely amazing scene. And then towards the end of the movie, she just shows up and is like, I'm evil. And they go like, no, you're not the antagonist right now. The antagonist is some other person. Bye. And they kill her. And it's just so underwhelming and it just doesn't work together. And that's my main takeaway from the film. That it could have done 100% and it only just did 50%. I still thought it was iconic as the original. I still thought it was as funny as the original. It had many jokes from the original that I did enjoy. I love the little bit of the extension and the new effects they got to do for the underworld because the original movie was very much like a painted set. And now it truly feels like the hallway is crooked and they can walk in the crooked hallways and whatever. That really brings the world of Beetlejuice together. And I'm excited to the third one. It was surprisingly much better than anticipated, just not that good. Hundreds of Beavers is one of the funniest movies ever released. I'm just saying that. So Hundreds of Beavers is about this guy who like has I think he was doing a winery or whatever. No, he sells beer. He was a beer salesman. And essentially some beaters come around, destroy his business, and now he's back at zero. And the whole film follows him trying to sort of get into a new business, this time catching and hunting animals, particularly beavers. It's like a slapstick comedy film where you constantly see this guy try to kill animals and like fail at them, run like Roadrunner style. But the escalation, my god, the escalation in this movie is wonderful. You start with this guy who doesn't know how to hunt, sucks at hunting, doesn't know how to do a trap, do anything. He gets stood by the animals steal his food. And by the end of the movie, it all just comes together into this weird society of beavers that is taking down through the knowledge that he acquired by multiple gags throughout the film. And like a thing that was a gag in the film, two times, they're placed like the film spread out in multiple like rounds, so you see multiple like the same bit having a different punchline like 3 or 4 times, which is pretty good comedy because at the end you get a big punchline for all of it. It works fantastically, and I love it. The movie is very minimal in dialogue, and of course, it's called Hundreds of Beavers because the main character tries to kill hundreds of beavers to get with a girl because her dad wants him to catch hundreds of beavers and will trade his daughter for hundreds of beavers. So that's pretty cool. And just the constant use of like visual comedy as is just fantastic. A lot of comedy films in the modern day rely a lot on talking comedy, and talking comedy can be really good, right? A comedy going like, he said what? Can be pretty funny, but not as funny as a character like slapstick comedy that plays with timings, that plays with outfits. One of the things I love about this movie is that it's clearly made on a low budget, and they use that low budget for comedy. Instead of being like, oh no, we have low budget, we can do anything, they decided to actually just make people wear the like pajamas, little like I don't know, onesies in the form of a beaver. It's like a fursuit of a beaver. And that's basically how they do all the slapstick comedy. And so when a beaver dies, they just turn into the suit, or like you can decapitate them and it's just the head of the suit flying. It's just a really funny film in every way that a film can be funny and silly and hilarious. And I wish more movies were like this. I really do. I'm kind of thinking about watching more content, more movies by this director, because I hear most of their movies are like this. Just incredibly funny. Wicked. Yep. Actually, yeah. Yep. I thought Wicked was a complete and utter achievable of the visions of the original play. The music is so much better, and the casting is literally on point. So let's go over typical criticisms that people had about this movie. Number one, Ariana Grande. Anyone who says that she's not a perfect casting for Glinda is fucking stupid. She always has this like bubblegum vibe. So putting her to do a bubblegum character and then actually making the person behind the character someone who's good at music and can actually hit the high notes required of the film, that's just golden. You get really good performance from her. You get really good moments throughout the entire film. She is the perfect casting. Elphaba, I don't think there was a perfect casting for Elphaba in the same sense. I don't feel like she's the perfect person for the role. But I also don't think the actress does any bad of a job. I think she does a really, 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 really good job. Particularly in the singing. Her voice is just powerful and amazing, and all of the songs throughout the musical that feature her voice primarily, they're just peak. Even songs that I don't like The Wizard and I, they're just awesome because of her voice and because of her place and the way everything is. Second criticism. Many people say the movie is desaturated, and that's not true. The movie's only desaturated when there's like a big sun spotlight, in which case it's natural for things to be desaturated because they're supposed to be illuminated. So it's supposed to look whiter than usual. That doesn't mean the movie doesn't have color. They go to the Emerald City and the movie is filled with colors and there's color everywhere. And then they go to a place and full color, and then they go to the academy and full color, and then they go out and full color. It's just color all over the place and really well made. Everything about the world of Oz in the film was achieved. The Munchkins characters, they genuinely feel like the people, and you can't imagine them being silly or stupid or simple-minded in some ways. The people in the academy feel relatively complete despite the fact that they are basically a background to the real things that are happening in the movie. Only complaint I really have is that the movie is too long. It's not, it doesn't feel too long. Like it's a 2 hour and 40-minute movie that feels like a 2 hour and 40-minute movie. It doesn't drag, but it could have been a 2 hour and 20-minute movie and be a little better. Shorten a few scenes, shorten a few sequences, you know. Alfred gets invaded to us, and now she's on the train, and you drag that out, and it's like, and then they go to the animals meeting, and the animals explain what's happening, and that's really cool. And I really like the goat teacher, by the way. The goat teacher in this film, I don't know why, I just found him to be adorable. I was in the theater and I was like, oh my god, he's so awesome. For some reason, he just stuck out to me. I think they just did a good job at like grabbing the animal and humanizing them enough. But aside from that, I do wish they had spent less time in that whole ordeal to just really cut some corners of the film and give us a little bit of a cleaner experience. I am excited to watch part 2 because it seems like a great part 2. As for the music, I feel so bad for anyone who knows me, because the best, like the songs that I like in this film, the most are, of course, Defying Gravity, but mostly No One More is the Wicked, the one that starts the film. I think that's an incredible musical piece. I love how you get like the most hopeful lyrics and then the music is so tenebrous and shit. That's really good juxtaposition, and it really makes you think, oh my god, what's going on here? When everyone's like, the wicked die alone, and it's like, oh, it's so good. Why is it ominous? What's happening here? It feels right for the movie to have every character be really happy and everyone singing on like happy tones, but the music goes blam, 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 like something bad has happened. It really sets up the stage perfectly. And the problem with those songs is that they have the high notes. Not just the "It's Me," but also the part where Ariana Grande is going like, she died alone. Where I'm just turned with my family. They're like hanging around, they're watching a movie, they're like, I'm glad this guy's no longer streaming. He's so loud when he streams. I wish he'd shut up. Why is he stream so long? He said it was going to be shorter today. And then I start. That I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try. And the middle, fucking 9 a.m., 9 p.m. They're like all tired and shit. And goodness knows. They're like, no, stop it. It's just hell for them. And I like that. I like torturing my family members singing songs from Wicked. Not as good as Twisted. If you know what Twisted is, it's a musical that's very similar, but instead of being like the bad person in the Wizard of Oz, is the bad guy from Aladdin, and it often parodies Aladdin and like Disney staples and whatnot. And I think that one's better. Just generally, I prefer that play. It's more playful, and of course it has the Twisted musical, which is just the musical number called Twisted in the musical Twisted. Woo-wee! You should go watch Twisted if you haven't and you liked Wicked. Particularly if you like Wicked. But if you didn't, you should still go watch that. Orion and the Dark, A tier. Pretty good film. I don't have much to say about it. I like the metaphor of like the relationship between light and dark, and it's an exploration specifically on fear. What I don't like is that it's one of those movies that tries to play around with the idea that it's a story and that it's being told, and that basically lets the writers do whatever they want near the end. So I didn't feel like the end of the movie carried the way that it should have, but the message of the movie definitely was carried through. Even if it went wacky with the storyline towards the end, it went wacky with the storyline for the sake of whatever the story was, whatever the message was. It was a whole message about fear of growing up, fear of the dark, fear of, many people, the whole metaphor of as long as there's light, a shadow remains cast, and the opposite, without light, no dark, without light, no dark, no light. Um, and it plays really well with that. I just wish it was less silly with its tone and took itself more seriously. But outside of that, just a great film. I definitely recommend it for kids and adults alike. Long legs. Oof, long legs. Some people really like long legs. I didn't. I think it's one of those movies that shines at the spots it shines, and it could have been rewritten to shine to an A tier. Like, if you rewrote some of the details, it could have been an A tier. But to me, it's a C tier. I didn't love it. I thought the antagonist was pretty cool. I thought Nicolas Cage did a sick job acting as the guy. And that's about all my thoughts on the movie. I feel like it doesn't come together very well. It has paranormal elements that don't really work at all until the end. It has reveals that our son has subdued. It has very, very obvious plot points. Like, there's this particular cop who turns out to become evil because of a possession thingy. And I don't even feel bad, like, quote unquote, spoiling it to you because it's so predictable that you obviously would realize. Either way. The protagonist, for example, I don't think she was that well put, that well placed. She needed more. The antagonist needed more. The real antagonist needed more, obviously, and of course was pretty predictable. I didn't predict who the real antagonist of the film was until about halfway through, which is long enough for you to, like, for the movie to have delivered enough clues for that. So, you know, I just didn't jive with it mostly on the moment-to-moment basis. I feel like it's a movie that drags on too much. It's too busy trying to be spooky and tension that it forgets that it's killing its own momentum, as happens with many horror movies. Far too many horror movies have, like, a momentum going, and they stop it for the sake of tension without realizing that they just destroy the momentum. They traded the momentum for tension, and that doesn't really work a lot of the times. Maxine. We'll leave that one for last because I also watched Pearl and Eggs, so I could watch Maxine. These are part of a trilogy, so I'm gonna rank them together. So instead, let's talk about Pedro Paramo. This is a film released based on a really old book that I read while I was in school because I'm from Mexico, so we ended up reading Mexican literature. And it's one of those books written in, like, really old Spanish. A little bit after Quijote de la Mancha, the Don Quixote, but after, like, before the language is as easy or as simple or as common as we use it nowadays. So it's a little tricky to get down in book form, and now they made a movie adaptation that, you know, is pretty accurate to the book. I liked the movie adaptation a lot. In fact, I may bump it up here. The thing about the movie is that it still is attached to a book, and the book itself isn't that good. The movie does everything it can with the book. It's beautiful cinematographically, as you can just see from this cover art. It takes a lot of inspiration from art, visual art, that's classical art, oftentimes, of course, from Mexico. And it generally works really well for all the visuals of the film. The cinematography is very pretty, and I really appreciated that. It's just, the story is still kind of stuck against the wall of being based on a book that wasn't that good to begin with, and the only reason we know when it's popular is because it's an old book. Like, it's old enough and important enough to be relevant, but it's not good enough. I wouldn't rather read Pedro Páramo over anything that released recently. Unless it's like some terrible book, like fucking what the next book that Mr. Beast will write, which will surely be a stinker, and it will still sell more than my actual content. God damn it. I definitely recommend the movie if you're into, like, that. It's a very it's like magical realism. I don't know how to say it. It's very common in Latin American media to have magical realism, and this is a magical realism story about ghosts and whatnot. And it also tells a really compelling story of, like, few characters. It tells a character in the present and a character in the past, and it tells the story of both of the characters at the same time, really efficiently. And I don't know, it's just a story that comes together neatly. The Wild Robot got a lot of applause, and I didn't think it was that good. My animated movie of the year would not be The Wild Robot, and I'm sorry. Actually, which animated movies released this year? I don't remember. Besides Inside Out 2, which is not my animated movie of this year. I don't actually know how many animated... I don't think I watched any animated movies this year that made me go, oh, wow, when it comes to like things released 2024, huh? I guess maybe this one, Caracasa, but we'll get there in a bit. I felt like The Wild Robot was great, but far too formulaic. The visuals were beautiful, pretty, and amazing. And I love the way they portray like the characters. I like the fox fellow. The fox fellow is really cool. And then the duck fellow may not look as cool, but they still work pretty well. And I like the world. I like that you're not sure if it's post-apocalyptic until a little bit into the film, where you start thinking, oh wait, maybe this is a lost cargo situation and not post-apocalyptic. And it was post-apocalyptic, but there was society, which is good. And I think that made me think, okay, the movie's trying at least a little to go places. Fact remains, it's still too formulaic. It's still the typical creature that doesn't know how to love found creature that needs to love, and now they grow together. But then they get into a fall off because of they don't share ideals, and eventually the person that learned to love also has to learn how to stop loving and let go and whatever. That's it. That's literally my entire review. There's not much to this movie. It's a very clear-cut film. I also like the Weaver, voiced by New York City himself. So, go in. Great movie, visually stunning, but I'm not sure I'm gonna rate it higher. You know what movie I need to watch this year? Fucking Flow. I'm pretty sure Flow will be my favorite of the year whenever I watch it, but we'll have to see. I was also pretty sure of other films being my favorite of the year, and they weren't. Joker 2 Folie à Deux. I just put out a video about this, and I'm pissed off at this movie because the video's doing badly. But outside of that, I don't think this movie was as bad as people say. Many people would put it in D tier and be like, it's the worst movie ever made. I disagree with that. I think the ending's a stinker. Actually, yeah, I'm putting it down here. C tier. I think the movie's definitely a stinker, but it would not be as much of a stinker if the ending wasn't a disaster. Once again, I did a whole 18-minute video about this, so let's just move on, and you can watch that video if you care about it. Look Back. Yep. Look Back here is based on a little one-shot by the guy who made Chainsaw Man. And it mostly shows that the guy knows how to write better than Chainsaw Man has shown in the anime, and I'm hoping that whichever happens next in the anime lives up to what I expect of it, because many people have talked very good about Fujimoto's work, to the point where I know his name, even though I've never really read anything of his things except the one season of Chainsaw Man and Look Back. I've seen this. I like Look Back. It's 59 minutes. It's not like the longest movie, but it's pretty well animated. It's pretty, and it has a neat message about creation. There's multiple moments where, as a creator, you feel related to the characters, but there's also many moments where you go like, okay, I'm glad I haven't had that experience that the character in this movie is having. I don't like that the movie plays with like a parallel universe at some point, and it's sort of confusing where that is. Like, it makes sense. You understand what's going on. But it's like a dream sequence that it was glorified far too much. And I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's not a perfect story, but what it does well. It does also make you wonder how much of the story is actually a thing that happened to the author of Chainsaw Man, because the main character is a little bit of a self-insert to Fujimoto, so yeah, not a surprise. Anyways, Caracasa. I'm a little divided on this one. I'm gonna put it at the top of 8 here. So, this one's not Mononoke Caracasa. It's the new film in the Mononoke series, and it has some good stuff and some bad stuff. First off, the story, I like that it's a lot more accessible than most of the stories are for other, like Mononoke stories. You have the anime in Mononoke where there's this episode that's like, you need to sit down and analyze it completely, or otherwise you get nothing out of it. This movie, thankfully, it's a little bit of an easier arc to understand. It has a more obvious thing. The thing about this movie is that part of what makes it a tiny bit difficult to understand is just how much detail everything has. It's a fucking pretty movie. You have this like world that looks like tinted glass. It has a very peculiar art style. If you just look it up, you're gonna find it and you're gonna think, oh my fucking god, this is awesome. Um, and it's only movement. It's not just backgrounds that are static. They're moving backgrounds, so they often go 3D, and technology does a lot of favors to like how the movie's gonna look, how the action scenes look. It's one of those films and stories that whenever it grabs a scene by the balls, it really delivers. There's many moments where the main protagonist goes like, I need three things, and you're like, oh my god. Really into the movie. It's perfectly paced, those scenes. I really like those. The action scene towards the end is beautiful. Probably the best piece of animated media that released this year in terms of visual. But then you also have moments where there's just too much detail too fast. And you basically have like 5 shots of different incredibly detailed rooms going like this. Bam. Next room, next room, next room, next room. You're confused. It hurts your eyes to watch this movie when it's doing that. They needed to step a moment back, look at the scenes they were making, tone down a little bit of the contrast of the colors because everything is contrasted at the top, and make sure not to add too much detail too fast. Had they done that, I would be willing to put this in S tier. Sadly, it does have that visual issue that makes the start of the movie a little grating. Surprisingly, not the only movie that I think that I watched this year that is very grating to see, but amazing in terms of everything else that I like really enjoyed. I'm gonna get to that in a second. It's still down here. It's not even in the screen right now. Okay, Memoir of a Snail, also from this year, also an A tier. I didn't think I find this story to be very heartwarming. It's about two twins who are born prematurely, so they both have different neurodivergences. While the kid is a pyromaniac, the sister, besides having a split lip, I don't know how you call that condition where you have a split lip and they have to like sew it back up. But she also has pretty evident autism. And it's a very nice story about autism because the way they portray the character when it comes to autism is just extremely solid. It talks a little bit about what happens when you don't look into those little traits of the autism, I guess. Sorry, I need coffee. So basically, they get separated at the orphanage when their parent dies. And you basically see a little tidbit of this girl's life now that she realizes that, well, she's not with the people who love her. She's with new foster parents that are like decent or alright. She's very indifferent to everything. And one thing she really likes is snails. Therefore, the name of Memoir of a Snail. Her hyperfixation is snails, and that's what she's very interested in. And so throughout the film, you see her becoming more and more of a snail, and they use that snail-like obsession to sort of juxtapose how she feels like she's shelled and she's low and she doesn't feel like a good movement. Then there's a little bit of a romance plot, a little bit of a funny plot. There's this character of an old lady named Pinky that you see die at the start of the film. The film starts with this old lady called Pinky dying. And then you get to see what Pinky was about. And it's just a heartwarming, fun story. Pinky's a great character, and I really, really, really liked watching Pinky throughout the film. What I didn't like so much was just how sappy and heavy the movie is. It's a good heavy and a good sappy, right? It's a drama movie. It's taking itself 100% seriously. And with itself taken seriously, it goes everywhere it wants to go. And like, that's just great. I don't have objections, but I do wish it had a few more things to lighten up the mood. And exactly the character that lightens up the mood a lot tends to be this Pinky person, who ends up being like a ray of sunshine to the character's life as well. So, you know, it's a very gritty film. It also has a few things that I don't adore in storytelling, but I don't want to say them because it's a little bit of a spoiler. It's like one of the final reveals in the movie is, oh, we did the thing that Nate doesn't like. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it was a great film. Visually really nice. It's stop motion animated. Climation, I think. I'm not sure if it's climation or stop motion, but either way, it's just really nice looking. It's a full feature film. It's from Australia, and I really, really liked it. Okay, let's talk about the Maxine trilogy, which I watched in whole. I watched the entire thing. Week X, week's Pearl, next week Maxine. So that was my Halloween, along with Hereditary and another horror films that we will get to in a moment. So let me just rank the entire trilogy, and we'll talk about them at the same time. Like this. This is roughly how it goes. As you can see, a lot of A-tier movies. I've talked about most of the good ones first, because everything that I remember later is down here, so don't worry. So this trilogy is each slightly different in terms of genre, but they're all like tense thriller films. The first one is a slasher film. The second one's a more like drama with a crazy person. It's basically Joker, but for gays. That's a good way to describe it, I think. And then Maxine is more about like the survivor of the massacre of the first movie, X, and you see like her like life in Hollywood and how she lives by in Hollywood, and she's a tough nut. She's a tough nut. So we get to see her get into a pretty Tamala situation with a cult-like scenario, if I remember properly. It's more of a person who's targeting her, but whatever. And the films basically go like X is the worst one because it's just a standard slasher. It's a good slasher. There's a scene near the end where they actually fight against the slasher, and there's like Bible quotes playing from the TV, very reminiscent of that one like dogma from The Binding of Isaac. And I think that's sick. I think that's great, and I really like it. But at the same time, it's still just a regular slasher film. You're not attached to any of the characters. They're all gonna die. You're more intrigued by how they're gonna kill them, and they don't kill them in any particularly interesting way. It does have a few sequences that are mildly unnerving if you're really like sensitive, but personally I didn't see that. Then you got Maxine. Maxine is one of those films that's just the satisfying conclusion to the franchise. It goes on a bit about the survivor from the first movie trying to sort of hide what she did during her survival. In order to survive, she had to escape the production she was. And another thing that's happening is that she used to be a porn actress, and she's stopping that, right? In the first movie, you see this group of people go to the cabin because they're trying to do a porn. And in this third movie, you see the character that survived going like, no, I'm gonna take my career seriously. I'm not gonna do porn anymore. She goes to auditions, and she turns out to be really, really spectacular as an actress. So now she's starting to get into the world of acting, and thus you get this like Hollywood setting with a certain person that's sort of trying to chase her and kill her. I didn't love the antagonist of the film. I didn't love the film. I felt like it was just alright, the same way I felt like Beetlejuice was just alright. It does have a complete arc, so I do like that they complete her arc, and it's a very cool arc. It's not an arc in the thriller variety of arcs where it's like, oh no, thriller, and it's more so in like the fun sense, I guess. Well, I'm checking YouTube. And then you have Pearl. Pearl's the best of the films. It's very subtle and it's very simple, but it just has so many moments that are actually unnerving. I don't think it's better than Mouthwashing. Just for the record, I think all of the horror movies I watched this year are worse than Mouthwashing, so keep that in mind. But Pearl is unnerving in a different way. In a way that I really happen to enjoy. First off, there's the performance. I think Mia Goth, who is the protagonist, as Pearl, she does an absolutely spectacular performance. There's so many moments in the movie that are quotable, such as moments where she's going, "I'm a star!" If anyone who's seen this movie will remember that scene, because it's just so well done. Any single time that something disturbing happens in this film, it's just turned up to 11, and it's very mindful, very demure, but it's also really awesome. Also, it's really cool that the protagonist herself, Pearl, is the slasher in this film, and she's the one who ends up killing multiple people throughout the film. So it's very nice. It has like this really, really awesome moment where it's just a monologue about Mia Goth talking about her psychopathy, well, her character psychopathy, and how she knows she's different, how she knows her mother has sheltered from being her, she's different, but how she wants to get out, she wants to do film. Um, she talks about the urges she gets to kill people, and it's just this really, really amazing and compelling monologue that it just works perfectly. It's a little long, but I love it. And yes, because it's a little long and there's not a lot actually going on in the film when it comes to like plot points intertwining together, I'm not gonna put it on S tier. But it is a pretty high A tier at the very least. And that's the Maxine trilogy. By the way, is this not an insult? What's happening here? This is stupid. Why would you do this? The two posters have like X's clearly and the third one doesn't. Come on. Put that X. Put an X in here at least. But I don't know, make the spotlight an X. I don't know. And with that, I've done all the movies that I watched throughout the year. Like, of 2011. Of 2024, I mean. 2011, holy shit. I'm still thinking about the video. I'm talking about a 2011 thing, so sorry. Now let's briefly go around all of these movies, because there's a lot and it's gonna take me forever to get through all of them. So, footnotes. Hereditary. Has a good scene in the end. Has also another good scene. They casted this little girl character who does an awesome job because she's so apathetic. And there's a scene where she dies. That's just a genuinely upsetting scene. Like, it's just a scene that makes you go, no, no, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh. Oh, no. Like, actually the reaction you have. And it's just a very well pulled off scene. There's an emotional. My problem with this movie is mostly the performance of every character who's not the protagonist. You follow this mother who is, of course, mourning the death of her child, who dies fairly early on in the film, because of a mishap, because of her other child. So that's a pretty messed up situation. And she's also a person that just went through multiple losses in her life. So she's basically thrown down. She's very disappointed. Plus, added to the fact that she has, I know a movie that I missed. Okay, I just remembered a movie I missed from here that I should definitely put in. Should I put it in now? Okay, hold on, guys. You're not gonna see window capture for a second. If I can. I need to put this film in because it's a really good film and I forgot about it. Oh fuck! No, never mind. I forgot the name. What's the name of the film? What's the name of the film? Okay. I'm looking up the synopsis. That's the one. Malignant. Hold on, let me bring in Malignant because I did watch it and it was one of my favorite movies that I watched this year. I should put it on the tier list. Let me just shove it in there. Shove it in there real quick. You guys don't have to see. You guys don't need to see. Don't see. Don't look. Turn a blind eye, even. That's fine. Okay. It's been added. We'll get back to that one at the very end. So, stay tuned, I guess. Okay, good. Right, have. As I was saying, Hereditary, just not fantastic. The ending is very confusing in that sense that it takes a moment to process what just happened, and then you process it and you're like, oh, okay, that's all right. But what really took me out of the film is just the acting of most of the people. There's multiple moments that are incredibly serious with the mother and her child fighting over the fact that her other child is dead. Like, it's a very serious situation, and you want to take it seriously, but then you get the kid crying and the actors going like, I'm so sad, mommy. In a just almost comical laugh, crying that just, it made me laugh, and I could not take it seriously. And that single-handedly turned down the other great performance was Watch the Mother. The Mother has a bunch of moments that are really well performed, and you know, it just kind of ended there as a result. Not the best film in the world, but not a bad film either. B tier, basically. The Farewell, similar situation. This is a very nice movie about death, particularly in Chinese culture. A lot of people don't tell terminal people that they're gonna die. And it's a movie that pretty much plays with that really well. The characters show up, they reunite with the grandpa, they bring up a wedding for one of the characters, the excuse is they move up wedding of one of the family members up. so that they can bring in and call in the grandma and just, you know, have a very silent farewell and just be together in her last days. But no one wants to tell. Oh, sorry for the burp. No one wants to tell her that. Uh, no one wants to tell her that she's gonna die. Basically, they're telling everyone in the family, do not tell grandma that she's gonna die. She got her diagnosis. We faked a version of the diagnosis that says that she's perfectly healthy, and we're just gonna tell her that she's not gonna die, even though she's gonna die. And most of the film sees the protagonist sort of deal with that weight, like she's hiding this secret from her grandma, and it's a grandma she trusts. She truly trusts the person that is around her, and that makes it like that's the kind of emotional core of the film. Then you see this Chinese family get together, typical with Chinese films, tons of food. They're just constantly eating. This is what makes a Chinese family, right? And I like that portrayal. It's a little bit silly, but it's accurate. And it just is a pretty heartfelt movie. It's not badly acted. It's not bad at all. It just doesn't have anything going for it. The most deep part about the film is that it's very obviously and heavily implied that despite everyone lying to grandma and telling her, no, you're perfectly fine, she knows she's not fine. She knows she's gonna die in a bit because of the whatever thing that was put on her. And that's sad, but at the same time, it's not too deep. They don't go too much into that. There's not a lot of drama because they wanted to prioritize the realism. And it's a very realist take of how that situation often happens. And one of the last things in the film is the protagonist driving away. She says goodbye to grandma. Grandma says goodbye back. And then once they're off the side of each other, they start crying because they know they're not going to see each other again. It's those kind of details that bring the movie together, but that still doesn't make the movie any more entertaining than it actually is. It's still pretty not that entertaining, but it's a pretty alright drama. A Town Called Panic. Excessively funny film. Almost also grading on S tier. It's a stop-motion animated film from France, I think. I think it's French. I'm not sure if it's French. It could be from Quebec, but... No, it's definitely French. It's about this Indian... So you can see it's an Indian person, a Wild West person, and a horse. And that's the movie. It's a movie for a show that I haven't watched, but you basically follow these characters that are kind of like a family, right? It's very much portrayed like the horse is the parent to these two kids who are a little bit mischievous. And the entire film is sort of presented in the style of like a little model. So you've got like a little model and trees are models. The ground is a model. The houses are models. The horse is a model. And like kind of sticking to that style with the character animation makes some of the funniest gags. You get the horse basically going around having like its daily routine as a human, but it's a horse and it moves like a horse, but not every time because sometimes the horse needs to move in unusual ways. And much of the gags of the film are visual because of that. So it ends up being a really funny film. And then it goes basically around these people who get harassed by some water people. And the family goes underwater to, deal with the water people who are living in the underside of the town. It's a very nice film. And it's more than anything, it's really funny and really goofy. The characters, for example, they don't have walk cycles. They rather like moving like, how when you move a piece in a model or in Monopoly where you're just like pretending to walk by tilting its legs into the ground. That's kind of how characters move into this game, in this movie, including the horse. So it's just incredibly hilarious. It's pretty heartfelt. It feels pretty nice, and I like the relationship between the characters. Die Hard. Yep, another A tier. We're gonna have a lot of A tiers, I think. I rewatched Die Hard this Christmas last week because it's Die Hard, and I decided to rewatch it because I hadn't watched it since I was 10 and I had forgotten most of it. I only remembered like a few scenes, such as the guy like trying not to fall from that one big bend, or the part where he explodes the entire tower. And I kind of had an idea of like, oh yeah, of course, it's this cop and this other cop, and they're talking in the walkie-talkie, and that's all my remembrance of it. So I watched it, and I tried to remember. I realized I remembered a lot less than I thought I did, and it still holds up generally. It has a bit of a boring part around the second half of the film. Like, if you split the movie in fourths, the third fourth is just kind of boring. It's just talking, it's setting up things for the finale, but everything else works. One of the things that surprised me the most is just the fact that the action scenes work really well. I did not expect the action and gunfighting scenes to be as good as they are, but years later, they still hold up perfectly. We're talking about Die Hard, people. It's like I can perfectly see why this Rambo-like movie became about as impactful as Rambo. It just feels cool. It's awesome to see the character eat shit and get back up, and it feels badass. It's one of those movies that really works together with the badassness of the character that I enjoyed. I enjoyed quite a bit. Great movie. If you don't remember it, I recommend you rewatch it. In the Mood for Love. Not a good film. It's about these two people who become neighbors only to realize that their husbands slash wives are cheating on each other. So the husband of the girl is cheating on the husband of the wife of the husband of the guy. And eventually they get together, they start hanging around together very platonically, and they realize that they don't want to be cheaters, right? They're trying to avoid having a relationship together because they don't want to cheat on their significant other because they know it feels horrible to be cheated on. And the movie plays a lot around with this, but then it's also just incredibly boring and it gets nowhere. It's a boring film. The relationship is compelling a bit, but it's mostly boring, and it's boring, very boring. The only thing about this movie that I quite think I enjoyed beyond the C tier, beyond the setup, because the setup was pretty good, but it's the music. The music's just not King Cole covers of music in Spanish. It's really weird, but it fits properly. It's very romantic. It's one of those old dramas, the kind of dramas that you see old 80s like TV describe, 70s TV, where it's like a creepy drama full of tragedy and distrust and despair. Where we don't like that as much nowadays. Nowadays we like the typical stuff that we see in Oscar nominees, which is like a hopeful tone and they're very inspiring and stuff. That this one's kind of the opposite in the sense that it doesn't feel like it has a reason to be because it's just so turned down, and that's it. Free Guy, funny film. Do we agree? Like looking at these two. Look at these two films right here. The ones I'm moving. Let's just look at them in a little bit more detail. Yes. I want you to tell me that in both of these movies, Deadpool and Wolverine and Free Guy, who star the same guy, don't have gay moments. I'm sorry, I don't. Free Guy is just. It was weird because he mostly didn't play the queer parts he typically plays, but then at the end he literally says he's riding a dude. Like he stands up, he looks at the camera, and he's like, "Look at me, I'm riding a muscular boy." And it's like, okay, that sounds too dirty to not be done on purpose. So, oh, hold on, someone's at the door again. I'm back. Boo. Did anyone miss me? Of course not. Very few people are actually around. The guy came. He's like, I came to clean the purifiers. And we're like, no one called to clean the purifiers. Turns out he got the wrong place because he misspelled the name of the place in his phone. This is what happens when you have too many words that are similar. Where was I? Free Guy. I was talking about Free Guy, yes. The whole thing. Yeah, so the man's clearly maybe, at the very least, bisexual, right? Okay, we've settled that. As for the movie Free Guy, I thought it was good. It's one of those movies that, like, it was clearly made by someone who knows about video game Easter eggs and, like, the sort of development progress, but they also have no idea about how video games work and are made. It's one of those movies where you're constantly thinking to the antagonist, like, you're constantly thinking, okay, what's the problem here? The antagonist wants money, so he wants to remove this thing that is literally a money-making machine, and the protagonists don't, like, tell him. So basically, it's about an AI that grows sentient, and the main antagonist is constantly trying to sell it, and the main protagonists are always trying to hide the AI, when it could be as easy as telling him, like, no, you don't get this. You have sentient AI. If you sell this, you become rich, and then you can distract him until you'll find the proof that they need. That's it. Like, literally, they needed proof to show that the main bad guy of the film, stole their data and used their AI system for the Grand Theft Auto-like game. And they are against a timer because the guy wants to release a sequel. When the protagonist could just go like, no, what are you doing? Stop releasing a sequel. You got a sentient AI. This thing is gonna be 50 times more costly than the sequel. Like, this is gonna make you infinitely more money. You are the first person. People are gonna call you the first person to create intelligent life that is sentient. That's insane. And no one tells them this. So they're basically running against the clock for no reason. But second off is, I don't understand why the antagonist decides to steal the system, because it's an AI system for characters that just follow a path and do a routine. That's how AI is supposed to work in this game. But the AI they built is made for, like, a simulator game where you just watch people live. So it makes no sense. Why would you put the heaviest AI? Plus, it's occupying a ton of space in the servers to have such a massive AI. And a bunch of stuff like that really makes me want to make a video about how films about video games like to do their video game worlds. Because they create video games that are fake and they talk about them and have a bunch of discrepancies that would make no sense for an actual game. Like, the amount of data that must be being saved for the AIs of this world is far too large for the development team to not have noticed, hey, the AIs are fucking messed up. We shouldn't have such developed AIs for a game that does not use AIs in that way. Okay, finally, another S tier. Surprising no one. The best movie about a person that turns crazy. Perfect Blue. Where do you start with this film? This film fucks with you as the viewer. By the way, this poster bangs absolutely. So this movie is about a mentally challenged idol. She has a bit of a problem with distinguishing reality, and that is exacerbated a lot because of stress. She's stressed out of her mind, and so her emotions get the better of her, and she starts imagining all sorts of shit. It's a weird movie. People die. She has a crazy fan. And it's a lot about this dream of trying to be famous, right? Kind of like Pearl in the sense of, like, what it means to be famous. And kind of like Pearl in the sense that she starts her career off a lot by showing herself in very revealing positions, which does not suit what she wants to do with her acting career. From an idol that used to be an idol and wants to go into acting. So it was a crazy film in many ways, and it is the best version of the Black Swan, like the Black Swan Birdman Joker format, whatever you want to call it. Of artists thinks they're crazy, but they're not actually crazy, or are they? You know, that kind of film. Big version of it. I don't want to spoil too much. If you haven't watched Perfect Blue, we'll watch it. Probably one of the best anime movies ever made. Rare exports. I watched this one recently for Christmas. The first, like, the start of the movie is not very good, but the end of the movie is really good. It's basically about this kid who discovers they're unearthing Santa Claus from the bottom of the earth in his hometown. Um, and it's Finnish. It's a Finnish film, so they talk in Finnish all the film. And so the film follows this kid who's kind of terrified of the imminent release of Santa Claus, and basically his parent and other families around the area who, well, they don't really know that this Santa Claus has released, and they start seeing weird shit such as animals being half eaten and things. So it turns out Santa Claus is not nice; he's actually evil, and he's kidnapped the kids. The kids have been kidnapped, except for the protagonist, whom, you know, was protecting himself against Santa since the start of the film because he started suspecting that Santa was around and tried to kill the kids. And the thing that I don't like a lot about the movie is that it takes a bit for the kid to put on the shoes, the big boy shoes, and say, okay, shut up. This is Santa Claus. I know this because I read it in a book. Even if you don't believe me, I'm gonna say it. You need this information. If it's wondering, they're stealing sacks, they're eating cookies, they're eating milk, they're Santa. This is a Santa situation. You need to listen to me. And maybe they can be like, shut up, kid, no one cares. That's not true. But they neglect the kid for like, I don't know, an hour of the film when it's like 90 minutes. So it's really annoying to watch it. But after the point where they actually listen to the kid, you get, like, the kid actually decides, okay, now I'm the coolest person in fiction. And he becomes the most badass character in fiction. He becomes, and I'm not kidding, more badass than the Die Hard guy. This fucking kid, this piece of shit, is more badass than the Die Hard man. Fucking Bruce Willis stays short compared to that kid in Rare Exports. So I think the strengths of the movie definitely lie in the fact that the end of the film just takes up everything that it set up to 11, and it's just really pleasing to watch the kid be awesome and the kid go like, tell Matt, hey, if I don't come back, tell my dad what I did. And he just goes like, he's just awesome and badass for no reason. I wish there was more of a build up to the parents and the adults believing him though. Gintama, the film. I don't think this is the peak of Gintama. But it is Gintama, and it's become one of my favorite animes of all time. When it comes to like the big three, they all stay short compared to Gintama. And I also got into One Piece like since last year, and it just doesn't like click together. Now I've been into Gintama for 2 years now. Like I started watching it last year, at the middle of last year, and I put a pause on Gintama so that I could do the Netflix videos. And once I was done with the Netflix video, I said, okay, time to watch Gintama. And I finished watching the show. It was incredible. It was amazing. I love Gintama. It's the funniest show, one of the best shonen. I wish the anime had adapted a little bit more of the prose in the manga, because the manga is like really heavily theatrical, poemical like. So it's like a poem. And I really think that part of the writing makes it something special in the manga, and in the anime it's not that case. But aside of that, just, you know, how film should be. It's a final film that sees a bit of a like step back from the story where it went. It's after a tiny bit of a time skip. And it sort of sees the characters returning to form for the actual final battle of the show, because, you know, there wasn't one. And I definitely think it brings it up together. It's a fantastic movie. It's a great ending for the story. I really, really liked Gintama. Probably one of my favorite animes of all time. Mr. Nobody. This film lasts forever and it's not very good. It's one of those films that is too long and feels too long. Unlike Wicked, that's long and doesn't feel like it feels long because it is long. This one feels long despite the fact that it's long. I like the film a lot in many ways, right? It goes to like multiple plot points and multiple directions. I like how it talks about our impact on things, right? How one of the things it talks about very much is how choices work. The fact that the spice and stars are so big, right? Mars is huge. And no matter what we do, Mars will still be huge. No matter what we do, Mars will still go in that orbit unless we find a way to move it. Meanwhile, little actions that you do in your life, things that may not seem important, such as mixing, I don't know, ketchup and mayonnaise in your soup, and you mix it up, that's something you changed, and it can't go back. You can't fix that. You had the power to change that, and you changed it, and now it's different. And it's very much about talking about all of these things that we have no control over, and how sometimes it feels like we have more control over our choices than we do, and sometimes the opposite happens. Sometimes we think we have more control over our choices than we actually do. It's a movie that explores that. You see multiple timelines in this character's perspective, where it's like, what would happen if this happened, or if this happened, or this or that, and you see a whole universe. You see a little bit of an internal conflict for the character, and eventually it comes back to being a little bit of an hyperbole, an exaggeration, and you're just thinking, okay, you exaggerated everything. Awesome. It was really disappointing, and I definitely think if it was shorter, it would have benefited. It's very much like Big Fish. I also watched Big Fish this year, but I'm not putting it here because I had watched it prior. I just forgot I watched it prior. I watched it like 4 years ago and had forgotten a large part of the movie because it wasn't that good. So I liked it more on the second time around, I suppose. But yeah, Mr. Nobody, the C tier. At least not D tier so far. D tiers are films that I actually think are bad. I don't think we're gonna have that many D tiers. In Brooks. In Brooks is a masterclass of foreshadowing. I've never seen a film do foreshadowing so well as In Brooks. It's about this hitman who, after a job with his friend Hitman, they go into this town called Brooks. And they have to lay low for like a year. But then the boss calls one of the hitmen and tells the guy, hey, your partner has killed a kid, so you have to hitman him. So basically you have to kill your friend. And you think, oh, is this like, do they fight with together? Do they go on like action scenes? No action scene. What's happening here is that the two hitmen are friends, and the hitman who killed the kid is immensely depressed because of the fact that he killed that kid. So now the other hitman has to wait like that remorse around him. It's one of those movies that foreshadows everything in such a clever way. It foreshadows so many things, and it foreshadows that it's going to foreshadow things in just a beautiful way. I don't want to talk too much about the stuff it does because it's all spoilers for those things it foreshadows, right? If I told you, oh, and then the character jumps off a building, then you're going to see a scene very early on when a character is going like, haha, I would never jump off a building, and you'd know it was this character. So it's just one of those movies that uses its dialogue and it's the things it sets up very cleverly to just make it a footnote and then make it important. Extrapolate something incredibly important out of that footnote in a way that just feels genius. Okay, Sam. Unsurprising. It's a kid who has 3 wishes, and the genie is not just the genie, but actually Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal in the movie Kassam. Okay, it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh that this film is here. It's not a very good movie, but it's a trash good movie. Like it's not a bad movie in the sense that I don't want to watch it. It's a bad movie in the sense that it's not good, but I would watch it if I had to. It's funny and I don't know. It makes me laugh. There's not much to say about this. There is a bunch of rap culture inspired in there, so that's pretty alright. I do think it's better than most people say. People say that the movie was terrible and unnecessary and whatnot. It's pretty alright. It's a good film. It's funny. It's wonderful in many ways. If it showed up on TV, it fits right in, right? It fits right in with the types of movies they showed on TV. So I don't think it's a bad movie. I liked it. It's just there's not a lot of depth to it. Nacho Libre, another rewatch. Probably B tier. I liked it a lot. As always, Jack Black does a really great job. He's really funny. I like the relationship between the protagonist, The music's great. I really like this song. It's a very neat exploration of, like, I don't know, masked wrestling films from the aspect that you don't often see, which is outside of Latin American culture. Mexico has a bunch of this, and there's been movies about this made for years, and then the US has a few movies about this, including Nacho Libre. And I think Nacho Libre manages to do it really well. They managed to put an arc, they managed to talk about a little bit of the, like, this days for fame. I don't know. It's a great film. Not the most deep film of all time, but at the same time, I don't know. Jack Black does the role to perfection. You see him throughout the film, and you really believe him. You know what this film is? One of the realizations I had is there's a Masaki Yuasa short called to kick a butterfly or something like that, or butterfly kick. I don't remember one. It's the one that was used for the music video for Buttercup by Jack Stauber. The one that goes like, yeah, that short is just Nacho Libre but Japanese. And I always find that hilarious. El Santo contra las Momias. This is a movie that most of you haven't watched, probably. I watched it in September because I watched a bunch of Mexican movies, as you can see here, particularly these three. And El Santo contra las Momias is not a very good movie. It's constantly filled with holes. And the most enjoyment I got out of the film is there's this one wrestler called Thousand Masks or whatever. I guess that's a great translation, right? He has 1,000 masks, and his whole gimmick is that every time he appears, he shows up with a new mask. And it's very funny in the film because they're like in a really tense moment. It's like, I'll see you in 5, and then he just shows up with a different mask. And that was really funny, but they cop out on that whole thing at the middle of the film, and then he just wears the same mask for the rest of the film. It's also really funny how they try to make like a Marvel Cinematic Universe with masked wrestlers. Of course, starting with El Santo and then other people like Blue Demon and whatnot. So these people, they're wrestlers, and they're fighting against paranormal shit. In this case, Las Momias de Guanajuato, which are some mummies that we display in Guanajuato, in Mexico. And it's basically rumored that they come alive. And so in this movie, they come alive and they terrorize the city, and it's like, it's supposed to be this big situation, this big, massive mess, but the production quality is so little that it's just so minuscule. Everything's so tiny. You don't feel the weight, I guess, of any danger happening to the characters. And the worst part about this film is that despite calling it El Santo contra las Momias, El Santo himself does not show up until about 20 minutes before the film finishes, and the explanation's officially, I was just passing by. He literally says, I don't know, I was driving my car, and I was just passing by, and I realized there were mummy zombies in the street, so I got up and I started beating them up. And then they beat him up in a really shoddy action scene with some flamethrowers, and the movie ends. It's not a good movie. We watched it, well, me and my brother, we watched it because it was a classic. It's a classic film. The Santo movies were everywhere. They made a bunch of them, and this is one of the ones that people applauded to the most, despite the fact that it features almost no El Santo, which was really weird to me. Café de Chinos, B tier. Pretty good film. I really enjoyed it. It's about this Chinese guy who's in Mexico and he runs a cafe. And of course, between the language barrier and the mood barrier and everything, he's not very well liked by the patrons. He also tends to beat up people who don't pay. So, you know, he's rough. He's got a heart of stone. And eventually, a girl shows up and he starts taking care for the girl and her child. He gets really attached to this this baby. And as the baby grows up, he like starts softening up. Very, very Grinch-like, no? The whole movie takes place in like 2 places. A cafe, the outside of the cafe, and the back room of the cafe where this Chinese guy lives. And he has a very stereotypical Chinese accent. That is true. One of the things about this film is that the guy just talks like this. It's really weird. And I'm not sure the actor is actually Chinese, so... But at the same time, it's a movie from like, I think the 30s or the the 40s. Like, it's a really old film. It's so old, in fact, some scenes of the film are like lost media. They're not found, they're gone. And you have like a re-edited version that sort of weaves in new scenes that are a little bit unrelated. I think it's a great film. I liked it. It talks a little bit about faith, what it means to have family, what it means to have faith. I definitely would rewrite it a little nowadays because it's a very Mexican film in the sense that this Chinese guy, in order to get the baby baptized, he needs to turn to Christianism. And he just goes like, okay, fine, perfect. And starts praying to Christian gods and whatever. Which I'm not sure would, like, it does show how devoted he is to the growth of this child. But it's also a little bit unassuming when it comes to, like, what faith is like for people. You believe something your whole life and to suddenly change that for someone else. It's not the easiest step to make. And the movie doesn't put enough weight on that. But that's about it. It's just not that deep. It's very hard to understand the audio because, once again, movie from 1920. Volume warning, okay? I'm gonna do a volume warning, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how this movie sounds.
It sounds a little bit like this. This is how the entire movie sounds, and you're supposed to understand what they're trying to say like this.
Okay. Sorry about that, but I think that illustrates the point that I want to get across, right? It's an old movie, and it shows, and that's why it's so low, you know? Ruby. This one's also Mexican, a little bit more modern, eventually inspired a TV movie. It's about this girl who's a son of a bitch, who's basically a money digger. How do you call that? Money grabber. I don't know how it's called it. Gold digger, that's the word. She's very much about richness and stuff, and she comes from a not privileged family, so she's desperately trying to cling on to rich people, rich boyfriends, rich friends. She wants to go dig their fame for her because she's just so materialistic. And she's an absolute piece of shit of a character. And she marries a guy, she makes the guy go bankrupt. Another guy, she makes the other guy fall in love. She completely denies that other guy because the other guy is not rich. And you just see all this drama built around this scenario, this situation of this woman who is a gold digger ruining the life of everyone. It's really annoying to watch her. It's really annoying to sometimes watch the film. But I think because of that, it just keeps you on your toes. It's very tight. You are like, all the time. Good film. Mulholland Drive. Probably the worst movie I saw this year. I wish I had something nice to say about the Mulholland Drive, but I don't. It has... Okay, I do have one good thing to say. It has that one scene in the theater where they're... the two characters are sitting down and they're watching a theater performance. And it's a very moving performance. And I think that scene's great. Everything else about the movie is a disastrous mess. It's just not good. It's trying to be clever with its writing, but it is not. It's long as fuck for no reason. It's trying to be compelling with its writing, but it is not. So what the fuck am I supposed to point at here? Like, this is not a movie I'd want to rewatch ever. I know that it's hurting some fans, because some people love this film, but I personally don't. I personally didn't jive with it a lot. I was mostly bored watching it, and I did not comprehend most of what was happening around the screen. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Single Man. Better than Mulholland Drive. I'll give it that. It's about this gay man whose husband... Well, not husband. Husband? I'm not sure if they got married, but his partner dies, and now he's mega depressed. And he's talking about his gayness with his ex-wife. Or I guess his ex-crush. That he didn't go with because he was homosexual. And it's a boring movie. It doesn't happen. It has a terrible ending. The ending is just boring as fuck. If you want to watch it because the synopsis interests you, I guess, go ahead. But just really weird. He falls in love with one of his students. Like, okay, he's a college professor, so it's not the worst. But it's still, like the two emotional hooks of the film is main guy's depressed and he's in love again with one of his students, who apparently is also gay. This is a movie I watched in Pride Month, and I don't know. I thought it was the worst of the movies I watched in Pride Month. It didn't really say anything. But I'm a cheerleader. Sure. We'll go A tier, because A tier's my B tier, I guess. But I'm a cheerleader is about this girl who is a lesbian, and her parents take her to conversion camp. And it's a funny film for me because I was constantly going like, oh my god, is this the home of sexual? But yeah, she goes to conversion therapy. She meets a bunch of other people who are there in conversion therapy, and she's not jiving with the conversion therapy. She goes out of the conversion therapy, realizes, oh no, I'm into girls, and we can't really you can't convert me into not being into girls. So that's the move. A lot of the film is going on about how, like, she's a cheerleader, and the reason she's a cheerleader is kind of because she finds appeal in looking at other women cheerleading. So she uses that cheerleading as a means of expression to express herself as a lesbian, and that's really nice. It's a funny movie. It shows a lot about the problems of conversion therapy. It very much is a satire of conversion therapy. It's like, conversion therapy is fucking stupid. You can't sit a guy down, tell him, step one is to recognize that you are gay. you know? Like, the film has like a group of people who also help people who are queer, but instead of being like, oh no, you can't be gay, how dare you be gay, it's like, no, we teach you how to be gay. We teach you how to go and find gay people and be happy as a gay person. So I thought that was a great movie, and I really appreciated the little bit of a message. Todo sobre mi madre. Ugh. I don't remember much about this film. Do I remember much about this film? What happens in this film? I genuinely don't remember much. I remember it wasn't bad. I don't think it was bad because I'm bad. I just don't think it was too memorable. It's with this director that I really like, called Almodovar. Another one of his films is Down Below. Oh, actually, two of his films are Down Below somehow. I turned into a machine because I'm trying to figure out what it is. Okay, I don't remember what this film was about. So I guess we'll just leave it there for now. Maybe I could remember it if I looked it up for. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. I'm gonna look up a singular screenshot of that. Let's see. Everything about my mother. Let's see if I remember that from just the visuals. Nope. I remember a little bit about. Oh, I remember a little bit about that. Yeah, I remember it now. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember it now. It's a little better. I don't remember too much details though. I just remember that it was good. Let's bring it up to a B tier because it was a great film, just not that memorable. Almodovar likes doing this thing where he has female characters just screaming, like being like female at each other. It's really neat, and I really like his style of directing female characters. But it sometimes can be a bit samey between his films. Like, a lot of the things I'm remembering are actually from another movie called Kika, which is down here. Down here. Where's Kika? I saw it. It was here. I put it in here. Well, apparently I forgot to put it in here. But I also watched that one. Gajillionaire. Pretty alright. It's a film about this girl who realizes she's being neglected by her parents, who mostly use her to pull off scams. And she falls in love with a person who she was trying to scam and realizes, well, they're more complete. And the movie kind of explores a lot about her situation where she's like, her parents have conditioned her to believe in paranoid shit and whatnot. So you get that aspect of the film where, like for example, there's this one scene where the lights go out and she literally thinks the world ended because her parents were like, no, the world will end if there's an earthquake that's too big. And she literally believes the world's ended, and she has to come, like, the friend's like, the world isn't ended. It was just an earthquake, and then the lights went out because of the earthquake. She refused to believe that. So in that regards, I think I really like the movie, that exploration for the character. But outside of that, the parents are shitty people and they're not explored, right? They're supposed to be shitty people, but they don't explore exactly what they're shitty. They don't go into their backstory, the reasons why they're such a piece of shit to their daughter, beyond, oh, we can use her. And that's really nice. And part of the framing of the movie is that, you know, she wants to be rich. She's asking her parents to pay attention to her. And the only way the parents pay attention to her is if she's either scamming or being scammed. So, you know, great. Oh, never mind. Here's Kika. Kika is, in fact, here. Then it was after this one, Abre los Ojos. This one here. Which is basically Vanilla Sky, but its original version. If you know which Vanilla Sky is. Okay, so Kika is really good. I feel like the characters written here are much better than in Everything About My Mother. It's about this woman. I don't know. It's about stuff that I can't talk about because of YouTube policies, actually. But yeah, it follows 4 women who are once again, very weird. He has the worst things happen to the woman in his films, and they react pretty casually, like it's another day, a Tuesday. It's part to tell different commentaries that he has about the world and the way society looks at female and women and stuff. So I don't know. It's just generally good. So this movie has a lot of plot points. It has the Kika plot point, which is, she has trouble with men. It has this plot point with this clairvoyant lady who is very much into the occult. Not a clairvoyant lady who's very much into the occult. She's actually a researcher, and she's looking into a certain situation regarding the man that Kika has trouble with. And there's also another guy who is getting into stand-up, and they decide that they basically are trans, so they become a girl. And the movie has a trans character, a female strong lead, a weak female lead. It has a variety of female leads, all who work really well, and they work together. And this movie is good enough that there's like a random scene where it's like they're having a smoothie, a gazpacho, and they were like, "Oh my god, what's in this gazpacho?" And one of the characters immediately goes like, "Oh well, I put tomatoes, lemongrass, this, that," and she starts explaining the entire recipe. I don't know why, but it's really cool that they do that. So no, it's a weird film. It's from Spain. You should definitely watch it if you're like interested in anything I'm saying about, because it's a pretty complex film that talks about different aspects and hardships that women have, and it doesn't do that in a very like condescended way. It does it in a very offhanded way, which is awesome. Talking about trans people, Hedwig and the Angry Itch. The film itself is not as good. I'm not entirely sure what it's trying to say when it comes to the main character's transness. But yeah, it's a movie about this person who falls in love with a guy, and the guy convinces them to get a sex change operation to move out of Berlin. Basically, the Berlin Wall hasn't fallen, and the only way to escape is if Hedwig decides to become a woman. And of course, Hedwig doesn't have a lot of problem with it. Like, he's planning to transition at some point, so she transitions. And so you see this transition from her character, except she doesn't just transition. You see, her sex change operation was botched. Her guardian angel fell asleep on the watch. Now all she's got is a Barbie doll crotch. She's got an angry itch. So yeah, they mess up the sex change operation, and she basically has no genitals. And this fact of having no genitals, and the fact that, the reason she's trans is because, she was kind of pushed into it. She wanted to be trans, but at the end of the day, they pushed her too fast to make the decision. She had to do a bad job. They did a bad job. That operation was botched. And now this character has a bunch of issues with their sexuality. Issues that they sort of try to work out throughout the film. And the film does a really good job about talking trans people, in the sense that at the end of the film, Hedwig comes to accept the fact that she's not man and not woman. And this is like a really well-made message. It's a little bit kind of holding it back, in the sense that, they don't mention it that explicitly, that she accepts both. It's more the sense that she accepts asexuality. I don't know, maybe my interpretation of it is weird, but I feel like they kind of cop out on her going like, I'm a woman, Anyways, the film is a musical. It's a rock opera, and even if the film's a little bit rushed, it's a little bit weird, the music itself is just amazing, and I've been singing the songs all throughout the year. Where it's the main theme, the Angry Itch theme, the Origin of Love, those kinds of musics, they're all just... It's a great movie in terms of the music, And in terms of the message, it's not the best. It feels a little old the way it deals with transgender people, but it does it properly, and I do like it. So yeah, and now that I'm thinking about transgender people, I'm remembering another film that I watched this year, I think. But it doesn't matter. It's not as good as Do Wong Fu. You know how I often remember films about drag queens in general because of my ratio of like how worse was it compared to Wong Fu. But outside of that, this movie's not about a drag queen. This movie's about a full-on trans person. And it also explores very deeply how this trans person feels about love, because, you know, she can't have relationships. So it's a weird situation. And she talks a lot about like what it means to love someone without that situation going on. So yeah. The Cook, the Thief, the Wife, and the Lover. This also was a great film. Another 8 here. Beyond the fact that the ending of this movie is iconic, it's also kind of structured in parts, kind of like a Wes Anderson film, which I really like. The cinematography and the way they frame the entire world of the film is great. It's just one of those films where you mostly end up thinking like, oh, wow, why are the characters so stupid constantly? So, like, there's this part where they hide in a library, and it's very obvious that they're gonna be found if they let someone borrow books from the library, and they just let someone book books from the library, and that is like one of the most emotional cruxes of the film, and you're like, I see. So this movie, in a surprising turn of events, is about a cook, a thief, a wife, and, you know, her lover. It's about a love triangle, and there's also a cook in there. And the cook's just kind of there to oversee. And the cook's relevant. The cook's relevant because the entire story most of the story takes place in the restaurant that this cook takes. And this cook is very much at the servitude of the quote-unquote thief, who is actually more like a gangster, I don't know. So the thief is this big important guy. The cook runs the restaurant for this important guy. The wife married the thief, but she doesn't really love him. She's actually in love with another person that she's in love with, because that's her lover. And that's basically how it works. Anyways, yeah, it's a great film. The ending is awesome. You should definitely watch it if you want to. The thief is one of the most weirdly aggravating characters. I'm not sure how he compares to Ruby in Ruby. I feel like Ruby is more insufferable, but this guy gets close. And it's nice to see him get his come up in the film near the end. So, you know, totally a recommend film. Como agua para chocolate. This one's like water for chocolate. That's the name of the game of the movie. It's about this lady who apparently has magical powers to transmit her feelings into food. So she's really good at cooking. And whenever she cooks, say, something with heartbreak, she cooks. So, for example, she wants to marry this guy, and she can't marry the guy because she's supposed to be the child that does the dishes in the house. And it's like, no, your sister will marry the guy. And so, because she's the maid, she eventually ends up cooking the things, and she cooks with heartbreak in her heart, and then everyone who eats at the wedding ends up feeling the heartbreak. So she basically has this magical, strange power to transmit her feelings through food. And she transmits some horrible, horrible shit and some great, great shit through the food, right? When she's happy, when she feels motherly, people eat her food and they're like, wow, this feels like a motherly dish. So that's kind of the crux of the film, the main theme of the film. But most of the film sort of centers on the emotion and the drama of this woman wanting to marry a guy who she's not allowed to marry because of the problems with her mom. The mom turns into a ghost at some point in the film. It's a doozy, but it's pretty good. It explores everything that it has to explore pretty well. Carrie, a classic that I don't love that much because outside of the ending, okay, fine. We put it here. It's a good film. I watched the original version. I don't know from what year that is. 1977? No. 87? 85? No idea. But yeah, it's Carrie. I watched it. I already knew where it was going because it's Carrie. Everyone knows what the plot of Carrie is. And it still holds up. I don't think it holds up that well in some regards. It does feel like most of the middle portions of the movie are just there. So I'm not sure what I feel about the middle portion of the movie, but the whole package, like put together, pretty good, pretty decent, pretty acceptable. My god, the stream is running long. I'm the yapper, I'm sorry. Galaxy Quest, I watched this near the start of the year, and I barely remembered. But I did remember it because it was really funny. It's about basically this group of Star Trek actors. It's basically like if the Star Trek actors were just actors, and then they found this island species who comes to Earth asking for their help, and they base their entire culture on this show called Galaxy Quest, which is basically Star Trek. So it's basically as if someone came to the actor of Spock and told them, "Hey, we need you to be the whatever Spock is in." I don't honestly know my lore for that. I even forgot the name mid-sentence. That's how little I know about it. For some reason, Starfield comes into mind. Like Steinfeld and Starfield. I said the name 3 times. How come I forget this? Wait. Yeah, it's basically that. And they take it everywhere they can take it. It's really funny, right? Because the technology of these alien creatures is all based on the technology they see on the TV, have the things they do. Like it's a super smart alien species that managed to make a spaceship. So they managed to move the spaceship, the actors, by just pretending to man the spaceship, and eventually they get the hang of it. And they just kind of try to help these alien species from a terrible threat. And they actually do manage to do it by calling up fans of their own franchise, because they follow the schematics of the franchise so well, the aliens, that the fans also are coming up on similar logic. It is goofy and it is funny, and I really, really like it. Open your eyes. I think I will go for B tier with this one. But it's also really good. Fine, A tier. Remember, A tier is my B tier. You know, this is the middle portion. This is the peak of the bell shape that I mistakenly do. So, Open Your Eyes is a film about a guy who gets horribly, horribly deformed in an accident, and he's trying to, you know, proceed life with that deformity in the accident. But he starts having I don't know how to explain it. He starts having questions as to whether or not he actually got in the accident or not, because he's imagining different situations that are happening, and the movie leads up. This leads up to like something at the end of the film. Whether that's the character being crazy or a genuine conspiracy, you would have to watch the movie to see. The English version of this is Vanilla Sky. So it's the same story as Vanilla Sky, just I feel like this one's better performed, just in the sense that this one takes itself more seriously. This one actually, you know, takes the time to make the protagonist look ugly when he's supposed to be deformed and shit. So, I don't know. I like this film. I kind of watched it in a study of how to write insanity. Because, you know, Perfect Blue sort of threw me into a quiz, a set of looking up movies about insanity. And this is one of the ones that many people recommended because it does tiptoe a lot in that idea of, am I crazy or is this actually happening? Hero, hero, hero. Putting it on S tier. Hero from 2002 may be one of the prettiest movies ever made. Just visually, the movie is fucking gorgeous. Every part of the story kind of has a color, right? So the start of the story is like a flashback and it's all gray, and then you have a part of the story that's like the story but fake and it's all red, and then you have a part of the story that's more real, so it's all blue, and then you have this, I don't know, so crazy stuff. There's this one action scene. It's a wuxia film, so basically there's martial arts, but like Chinese martial arts, where it's just people flying and hitting each other in magical ways. Doesn't need to make a lot of sense, it just needs to be cool. And the story itself is very simple. It's this guy who is a hero who basically finished an entire army on his own, and is called to the like to the I don't know, to the castle of the emperor, and the emperor starts like asking, "How the fuck did you do it? How did you achieve such a goal?" So the story isn't that deep, but the visuals make up for it. Everything about this movie is the prettiest thing you've ever seen. If you look up screenshots of this film, you go like, "Oh, it's just that pretty." There's this one fight scene that happens over a lake, and they had to wait for the specific time where the reflection and the lighting and the this and the that, and it looks fantastic. It's a fantastic fight scene with people like running over, like fighting in the lake. It's just weird, but it's really beautiful too. Completely recommend. Dressmaker. Yeah, no, not good. I kind of wanted to like this movie because the ending is really cool, but everything in between is just kind of mega boring. It has like it's like Little Town hates a group of people, and the group of people actually, I don't know, do stuff. It's also not a very memorable film. When I say do stuff, mostly it just means I don't remember what happens. I just don't remember it being cool enough for me to think about it long enough to remember. It does have the most awesome ending. The ending of the film is pretty fucking awesome. But aside of that, didn't really win me over. Ooh, The Northman was great. Great movie. A little bit of a revenge story. Not too much of a surprising. In fact, I might put it here. Nah. It's good. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. Revenge story. The Northman. He's the man from the north. He's trying to take revenge on the guy who killed his parent, even though he doesn't realize there may be more to his parents' killing than he imagined. Like, you know, his parent maybe has been an asshole, but I don't know. There's twists and turns in the story, and it very much focuses a lot on the environments and on the look of the place beyond any of the actual story. It's a pretty standard revenge story, but it is pretty cool, and I love the visuals. I may put it here, because it would be fair to put it here, I think. I think I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like it more than I objectively can rank it, I guess. Paper Tigers. Similar situation. It's about these three guys who used to do martial arts under the same teacher, and the teacher's murdered. So they start researching who killed their teacher, only to find the teacher had a secret pupil. And they basically... There are three old people who have not done martial arts in years. They've grown complacent with life, and now they have to basically relearn how to beat up people. That seems pretty cool, but the movie's kind of rushing itself a little too much. It has like 4 fight scenes, I think, or like 5 maybe, 5 tops, and they're not the best fight scenes ever. You don't really buy that the protagonist regained his strength back enough to beat a guy who just did a secret super move on his, teacher, I guess. Oh, Pride and Prejudice. My God, I am taking forever finishing this stream. So I'm gonna rush a little bit to the end of this. Pride and Prejudice, typical story. I like the twists and turns. Everyone knows Pride and Prejudice. Not sure I love the nuance with one of the grandma characters, but it's there. And it's one of those movies that I expected it to be a little bit more tragic than it actually was, but that was for its benefit. I definitely think I liked it more without it being tragic, and it focusing more on the romance between the Pride and the Prejudice. And you're wondering who's the Pride and who's the Prejudice and who's the zombies. I mean, no, this isn't the version with zombies. Never mind. Spy Family Code White, B tier. I watched this. It's a Spy Family film, and it clearly feels like it's not written by the people who made the film. One of the deadest giveaways is the fact that Anya goes to a store and buys alcohol, despite the fact that she's like 7. Why are they letting the 7-year-old buy alcohol? I will never know. But also the fact that this movie lays it on thick that Yor is an assassin and Lloyd is a secret spy. And they lay it on so obviously in your face that you can't help but believe maybe someone's lying to me in telling me that these people don't know each other. This clearly was not written by the author of the original story because they put things too on the nose. Looking at that aside, it's a fun movie. The fight scenes with Yor are really well made. Those fight scenes are S tier. Not as good as the Kimono, as the Caracasa fight scene, but yeah, almost as good. Return to Us, B tier 2. it's more of Us, and I quite like that it's inspired itself from other Us media to bring up like more Us, and it feels like, kind of like if you were watching Wizard of Oz 2 in many ways. I like the film. Mostly of all, I'm thinking, what if it showed up in Kingdom Hearts 4? That would go so hard. Now, that's not gonna happen, but if it did, I would come in my pants. So, I'm just saying that. Dick Tracy. Detective film. He's a detective and he's a dick, I guess. No, Dick Tracy, it's based on the Dick Tracy comics, and I was kind of surprised at how well they managed to sort of line up the dick of the Traciness, I guess. They managed to recreate the style of the comics by giving all the characters really colorful suits and making the world really colorful, and that works really well. The antagonist of this was honestly pretty memorable. I really like the antagonist. Kind of a bit expected who the antagonist turned out to be, because it's like a secret antagonist for most of the time, but it's also really cool. It's the antagonist is this guy that has no face, called Mr. No Face, and he has no face. So the movie focuses a lot on Dick Tracy's relationship with other women as well as with a kid he meets, which is Junior Tracy. It's kind of like pseudo adaptation of Dick Tracy kind of grabbing an arc and then putting all the big pieces of what makes Dick Tracy into a film. And it's definitely not accurate to the comics in many ways, but it does touch a lot of the plot points that the comics took. So, I found it to be, as an adaptation, I found it to be great. Plus, it's really fun. It's colorful. Visually, it's a great film. And it's going on to be, like, visually, it's one of my favorite films that I've watched. Really like the vibe of the colorful suits. Scanner Darkly might be worse than Mulholland Drive, now that I think about it. It's about this undercover cop that goes into a house of people who are very high on drugs and drugs. And eventually he's not sure how much of the things he's experiencing is drugs and how much he is actually the undercover cop, right? The movie tries to play a lot with the question, is he an undercover cop or is there more to it? It's a very cynic movie and I didn't end up loving what they do with it. The visuals of the film are the most notable part of it. It's all done in this like rotoscope style that works. It's just kind of sad that they don't do much paranormal things. Anything that they could do by the means of making everything animated, they don't do, which is a shame. Except for one thing, which is they have this like suit that makes you look like no one. It's like a suit that you put on in the story, like an FBI developed suit that makes you just look like a blob of different people. And that's the only effect that actually uses the animation to its advantage. So that's not very cool. Hellboy. I watched Hellboy, the original, the Hellboy movie. Pretty simple. I like Hellboy's arc. I didn't love much of it, but I did like the main arc with Hellboy and the other guy. And the lady, I forget her name. The one who burns things on fire. It's very much kind of like X-Men, but like discounted. It doesn't feel like X-Men, but it is a more grounded superhero story where the superheroes are seen as creatures and weird and ugly. I don't know. I liked it, but I don't have that much to say. It's not a deep movie. It's just a great movie. Sucker Punch shocked. How many bad movies did I watch this year? Holy. Sucker Punch was really bad. It's supposed to be about this crazy mental patient person who is imagining all sorts of scenarios. And the movie has like one really, really cool scene where this character gets on a katana and starts fighting a giant creature, and it's all Shadow the Colossus like, and I really like that scene. Everything else is just trying to make you go, oh my god, the writer is so smart. They really want you to believe that the writer's smart for like the way they portray the hallucinations and the worlds and everything. But it's not a movie that you're watching because of the story. It's a movie that you're watching because of the hallucinations of the main character being pretty cool. It also kind of cop-outs on many things and whatnot. It's one of those movies that could be enjoyable if you never analyze any parts of it. And it's not even a turn off your film and enjoy it film. It's clearly flawed in many senses. So I kind of want to like it. Nah. I'm putting it like here. Portrait of a Lady in Fire. Maybe C tier? I heard really good stuff about this film, and I didn't think it was bad. I like how much of the cinema. Okay, fine. Just because of the cinematography, I'm putting it in B tier. But The cinematography wasn't that pretty. What am I saying? The cinematography was pretty. Everything else wasn't that good. It has this story about a lady who paints another lady, and they fall in love together. But of course, they can't be because it's the 19th century, so you can't do that in this economy, I guess. And I don't know. They have a pretty nice relationship, and I like the exploration of what it means to be an artist that does work based on other people. Oh, hello, Night the Goat. Just for the record, S tier. It's the best game I played this year. These are just vaguely arranged by how much I like them. They're not 100% arranged by that because, like, this would be more like this, Kind of like, yeah. Kind of like this. This is more accurate, I think. Of course, it's an S tier. You can rewind later to check what I thought about the film. About the game, I mean. I'm talking about films now. Talking about films. This is my tier list for films that I watched this year. Just that I watched this year. They don't have to come out this year. Goldmember. Yeah, Austin Powers Goldmember is the worst in the Austin Powers trilogy. Many of the jokes are just reused jokes from before, but that doesn't stop them from having incredibly hilarious jokes, such as the submarine that's just in the face of the antagonist. And it does bring back a bunch of jokes about, like, Mini-Me and, oh yeah, hopefully we get Silk Song next year. I'm really hoping we get an announcement so I can react on it on stream. You know what I did, Night? You know what I did? I did the stupid. Because I used all my brain cells to be like, oh, I always wanted to watch this fucking, what's the name? I wanted to play Hollow Knight so I could wait for Silk Song. And now I'm waiting. When I watch, like, video game announcements, I'm either waiting for Silk Song or for Tomodachi 3. I am the biggest clone of them all. Cursed by Al Pacino. Nothing special. It's about a guy who is trying to pretend to be gay to find a guy who's killing other gays. And it isn't that much. Yes, I'm talking about Austin Powers, baby. Also, Austin Powers actually aged perfectly, now that I think about it. Now that I think about the film, it aged perfectly because it's such an 80s film. In the sense that it's an 80s film about a guy from the 60s to travel to the future. It's just, it fits so well because you're talking about 4 different time frames from the audience's perspective, including the time frames of when you watch the movie. That's really funny. That does work really well. I do wish they didn't focus so much on Fat Bastard in the third movie. Yes, that's the actual name of the character is Fat Bastard. He's not that funny to me, but I do like that he sounds like Shrek. Yes. It's about a guy pretending to be gay to find some gay killer who's killing other gay people. And then as it turns out, things are weird. Something's going on. There's more to it than just that. But yeah, you basically get to see him learn how to be a homosexual and go to, like, gay bars and stuff. And he learns the handkerchief code. Cabaret. Another C tier. Really fun movie about the cabaret. Talks about a lot of racism and events that happened around the 1940s, which I can't discuss too much in detail because YouTube's gonna get angry. Probably. I don't know. But it's a cabaret. It's a very, like, bombastic film in many ways, but it doesn't do anything with its bombasticness. Like, you watch it, it happens, you go, cool, and then it's over. That's it. It has musical numbers, though none of them are that good. It has, like, maybe 2 musical numbers that I like. But it's generally not a great film. Deep Sea. Deep Sea's an S tier. Probably my animated movie of 2023, my favorite. Like, if I had to say, this is the movie I like the most. I think this movie is fucking weird. It's a Chinese film about this girl who goes overboard on a ship and finds this big, massive restaurant ran by a fucking sleazebag. The sleazebag is a joking guy. He doesn't take anything seriously. And he's, of course, getting in tons of troubles with the sea and trying to get his restaurant to be better. So, the thing about this movie is that it's pretty as fuck. Like, probably the prettiest film of all time. Okay, maybe not, but it is really prettily animated. There's a lot of detail. A lot of detail in a bad sense. Again, like with the Carcassa film. Sometimes so many things are moving on screen that you don't know where to look, and that kind of makes it go like, whoa, 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 what's happening? It is, but beyond that, my god, what a pretty film. It's one of those films that every frame is a painting, and they're not lying. It has the like vibe and the energy of a Ghibli film. At least what I remember of Ghibli films. Quick reminder that I'm not watching Ghibli films until I reach a million subscriber, which is never, so yikes. And they both characters that it explores, because it explores both the girl and the asshole. But yeah. Inside Out is not in D tier, it's in B tier. Just pretty mediocre. I didn't think it was that bad, but pretty mediocre. Nothing particularly huge. But yeah, Deep Sea is just a pretty fucking film. Maybe sometimes a little too pretty. There's a bunch of effects that look like painting. It's very colorful. It's very hard to watch. I was watching it on a streaming service, and I was like, oh, wait. I can't watch it on a streaming service because it compressed the file too much to truly appreciate what the film's trying to do. And then at the end, there's a whole twist. Oh yeah, Inside Out 1 is an A tier. Like, I put it at the top of B tier because I ranked it first, but it's pretty much like, say, here. I don't know. Deep Sea, definitely recommend. It has a tiny bit of a twist at the end where it's like, haha, we're going to surprise you with a twist. That's not really that surprising. But I ended up liking it. Is very emotional, and it makes you go, oh, good. So, you know, I like it. It's a great film. Definitely my favorite animated film of 2023. I wonder what my favorite animated film from 2024 will be. In January, I will be watching a bunch of films that I skipped on this year. Because I always do that. That, like, I learned about Deep Sea in January, and I was like, okay, I definitely have to watch this, and thank God I watched it. Malignant. I forgot about Malignant, but my god. Malignant is the fourth movie in the Glass trilogy, in the sense that it plays it off as a horror film for most of the film. Like, it's supposed to be like, oh, be scared about the evil creature Wendigo thingy that's there. And then the end of the film, it just turns into an action film. It's hilarious in many ways. And, like, you could make a trilogy of films that are exactly like this, and I would watch it. I don't think it's perfect in the sense that it's a little long, it's a little silly. The only part about this film that's truly SS tier is just the action sequences. They're fantastic, and I love the action sequences. Oof, coffee. I'm running out of coffee. You're gonna have coffee after the stream. But it's 2:20 in my time. I have to edit a shit ton, by the way. I have to start editing a video, and I'm here talking about every movie I watched in 2024. Take on King Crete. Yeah, I mean, I want to rank this higher. Visually, this movie has like a very loose animation style, and it's very fun. It's about two orphans who are basically like the kings of the city. They're really good at parkour. They're really good at robbing people. And so they kind of run a segment of the city on their own. Mostly the older kid. Eventually they get caught and they get sent to the, like, what do you call this? The orphanage? However, a bad guy is after the kids because they want power over the territory that these kids basically sort of quote-unquote control. They don't really control it. They're just a very bothersome obstacle in the way, so they send a really strong hitman to beat them up with martial arts and whatever. And now the kids are kind of sort of escaping together, and eventually they get split up. And it's one of those films that reminisces of Masaki Yuasa, and would probably go incredibly hard if Masaki Yuasa had directed it. Because the scenes that mostly need to slap do not slap. There's a whole scene kind of exploring like the psychology of the big brother at the end. And I know for a fact that if Masaki Yuasa had done that scene, it would be fantastic. Masaki Yuasa is the guy that grabs a scene and goes like, it's time to make the scene. And they take it everywhere. Take a look at Mind Game. Mind Game is not good. It's like... But the end of Mind Game is just the characters running against a waterfall, climbing a fucking waterfall, and you're so fucking in on it. You are down to watch that shit happen. So, yeah, my issue with Tekken Cricket is that Yuasa didn't make it. It was made by some other director who didn't quite manage to twist the knife in there to make the movie a good movie. And finally, I watched To Every You I Loved Before You. Or yeah, To Every You I Loved Before. Yes, they climb a waterfall. They're trying to escape a whale who ate them. And so they're climbing the fucking waterfall by running on the walls of on the pressure of the water going upwards, because the waterfall's going upwards. It's an inverse waterfall. But see, that's the deal with Masaki Yuasa. He may not make the best films, but he makes the best scenes. And he also makes one of the 10 best shows I've ever seen, but okay. But yeah. To Every You I Loved Before, and to me, the one who loved you. This is like a 2-part film that tells a different story of the same guy falling in love with a different girl in a different scenario. In one of the scenarios, it's researchers trying to find information about time travel, while in the other scenario is researchers who already know information about time travel. It's really weird. And so it focuses on two different girls, each of whom takes the protagonist in a different direction. And we basically see both of his lives in there. And these two lives end up intertwining. He loves a girl who dies in one of the films. And he doesn't love the girl who dies in the film, because he fell in love with someone else and basically started dating them. And started researching into this whole parallel timeline theory. And the movie is very much about connecting these two stories together in ways that make sense from both movies. So in one of the movies, you see things happen, and in the other one of the movies, you see other things happen. And those events intertwine, but they establish like half-truths for each of the films. And the thing is, the fun part about this project is that depending on which film you watch first, what experience you get. There's some films, like if you watch one and then the other, you get a more melancholic experience, where if you watch and then the other, you get a more hopeful experience. It's weird, and it works well at like making you intertwine the stories, change your perspective on the same story. Because the perspective you have of one of the timelines is different while you're watching one of the other timeline, right? You may think that something horrible happened in one of the timelines, and then realize it wasn't that horrible by the standards of the other timeline. And some stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's a really cool thought experiment. And I also think that's all of the movies that I watched in 2024. Except not really. This is about, like, most of them. It's about 4/5. Because I'm sure I'm missing some that I'm going to remember later and go like, no! I mean, I forgot Malignant. And that was a movie I really liked, so... And that's it. That's my rankings of everything I watched this year. Honestly, really good year for me watching film. It is true that I did watch some stuff like this, except for Kazam, which I'm honestly playing with putting on C tier. Sure, Kazam goes on very low C tier. We give Kazam the power. But yeah, as you can see, not a lot of the movies from this year ranked too highly. What do we have? Hundreds of Beavers. Fantastic. Probably my favorite of the movies that I released this year and I watched this year. Deadpool and Wolverine, really good. Caracas has the amazing fight scene. Pedro Paramo, I mean, it's alright. The Wild Robot, I mean, it's alright. Memories of a Slade is pretty good. What else is from this year? Nothing new. Beetlejuice. Terrible, but also fantastic in many ways. I thought it was gonna be the worst, but it was just bad at some points and great at some other points. Maxine, great trilogy, I guess. Taken together, it feels much better. I feel like Maxine by its own doesn't work that well, but as a trilogy, it works really well. Oh yeah, Spy Family Code Red. No, that's from last year, according to Japan. What else? The Northman, that's also from last year. So, what a shame. Long Legs, pretty alright. Not much to say. Could have been deeper, kind of like what it likes. Maybe it's enjoyable if you analyze it more than I do. Joker 2, definitely overhated by the internet. Still terrible. Would have been like an A tier at the very least if its ending was like decent. I think that's everything from this year. Yeah, that's everything from this year. I didn't watch a single D tier movie this year, huh? That's like from this year, so that's pretty cool. And yes, the Joker 2 is the worst film I watched this year. My God, fuck Joker 2. How dare they make me make a video about this? I do wonder what I think about all the films that I haven't watched, because there's a few films that I want to watch. Notably, Flow, Nosferatu, Sonic 2. I can't watch Sonic 3. It's not out on theaters yet. It's not out until tomorrow. Anyways, that will be the stream. I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting any film that I watched, but I don't think... I mean, I probably am. Probably am forgetting many. But if they're not immediately coming to mind, then that I probably don't remember. Like, they weren't that good. If they were good, I will put them on Twitter, and I will tell you on Twitter that it was good. Either way, that's my tier lists. Movies, take a look. And video games, take a look. I don't even need to scroll for video games, because video games are cooler. And take longer to play. There's one game here that I didn't rank, which is Y2K, a postmodern RPG. I've only played 7 hours of it, and it's the game I'm currently playing through, because they did a big update. So far, it's an A tier, but we'll have to see. Depends how much it sucks ass. I hear it may have sucks ass story-wise. I don't know. I really enjoy a lot of the times where it just goes full-on psychedelic and you're just seeing weird fucking visuals. Oh, I remember a film I watched this year. Oh, but hold on, dude. You don't get to watch that. You don't get to watch the Trivago sponsor. And how I still use Twitter instead of X, because fuck you. I watched Zodiac. So let me quickly rank Zodiac, the film. I'm glad I remember it, because it wasn't very good. Let's just review it now, even though you can see the screen. Haha, stupid. Can't see the screen, silly idiot. Doesn't know he can't see the screen. I can't see the screen, and you can't. Ha 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 ha. Stupid idiot. Ha, you're a clown. Ha. Fuck you. No, but yeah. Zodiac, I watched it. It's like a retelling of the story of the Zodiac Killer. And get ready for the reveal. Yeah, B tier. I feel like it could have been good if they had cut a bit out of the film and just focused on like the important parts. More so considering they clearly didn't catch the Zodiac, and the film tries to play it off as if they did catch the Zodiac. And the parts that people often applaud about this film is just the way it portrayed the Zodiac killings very accurately. And it was very careful with like how people were stabbed and where they were stabbed. So that's pretty epic. Oh, and it also even has like those anecdotes, like the time they thought that for whatever reason they noticed a guy who looked exactly like the sketches from the police, and they were like, okay, yes, he does look exactly like the guy we're looking for, but he's not black. So, he's off. He's up with a warning, sir. Even that was adapted into the film, which, you know, points for accuracy, but it doesn't justify that the film's like 3 hours of boring nothingness. But see what I mean? I'm forgetting a bunch of films, and I don't know all the films that I'm forgetting. I may upload this tier list in a bit once I remember everything that I've watched. So, you know, if you are curious about that, go watch it go watch me on Twitter. Either way, this term has gone on long enough, and all the people have left already. So, by the time I end the stream, I'm not sure. Like, I like being able to stream to multiple sites, so I'm probably moving on to this software that I'm using right now, for the future. So this is pretty cool, and I like this software, and I'm glad I can stream to both places at once without issues. So many like other services are charging for this feature, which to me is just stupid. You shouldn't charge for multi-streaming. Most people can't even multi-stream, so I don't know. I'm glad I could multi-stream, but this also has been a very static stream, so who knows. Next week there may not be a stream, so I guess it's in my best interest to tell you now. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope you enjoy whatever holidays you have coming up. It doesn't matter which holidays. I hope you get good presents if you get presents. I hope you get good food if you get good food. I hope you have a fun time in just the period. And I may not see you all next week. It really depends. If I realize that I'm basically free and that, like today, I already had trouble just streaming because there's been a bunch of noise in my house, and I basically put the house in shutdown for the entire morning. So I'm great. But yes, I'm just gonna end the stream now. If I'm free next week, there will be a stream. It will be sent out the notification on the site, as always on Discord. But if there's no stream, then there will be no stream, and I will eventually come back to you once I can with Mario and Luigi Brothership. As for videos, be on the lookout for a video next week, not this week. As expected, I uploaded a video this week, so next week should be the time you upload a video. I may upload it a tiny bit earlier, like instead of uploading it on the 6th of January, I might upload it on the 31st of December. We'll have to wait and see. Also, it would make me really happy if you guys took this holiday time to share my videos a bit more, particularly today and tomorrow, because today and tomorrow is the days where most revenue is happening. So I know this is a little bit selfish of me to ask, but if you can, please share my content with your friends. Pick a video and show them my stuff, and yeah. Oh no, you missed the whole video, Natsuki. That's a shame. I'm gonna show you just really quickly the tier list because I'm about to end the stream. This is the game's tier list. You know, everything I played this year. It's not things that released this year, just things I played this year. But most of many other things I played this year are things from this year. And here's the films, same situation. Just really good films that I watched this year, and really bad films that I watched this year. These are the really bad ones. These are just the okay ones. Good, great, godlike. Sure, maybe I could split these two into like two categories to have like an A and an S and then a super S, but whatever, who cares? Again, any film I forgot, I'm gonna put it on Twitter if you really care about this. So yeah, that's that. Thank you all for joining. Have good holidays. Once again, if you can, please share my videos, particularly today and tomorrow, because it really makes me happy when people share my videos. Besides the fact that today's the most profitable day of like the year, and it would bring me so much happiness to be doing good. You guys don't understand the power you have over the channel and the ability. Best stream, wish you were there. I mean, you can watch it in the background later. You know, if you have some art to do or just something silly to waste your time on, you can just put me on as a podcast. This has been a just chatting stream, so I'm just podcasting it up to one viewer on Twitch and a spam bot on Twitch, and then people coming in and out on YouTube. All right. Many opinions. I've been the yapper. My mouth hurts between today and yesterday. Yesterday I recorded the video that I'm supposed to start editing right now, so I guess I'll get on to that. Thank you all for coming. No, thank you all for coming. And bye-bye. Just kidding. I'm not actually bye-bye. Hold on. I'm trying to bother someone. Someone I know wants me to really bye-bye, but I'm trying to not bye-bye. Bother them. Fuck them. That's why. Hey. I'm so evil. I'm so mischievous. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm in extreme. I've bothered enough. Goodbye.